where we are, talk about like the latest developments, talk about what we're expecting, and just kind of get everybody onto the same page. I think it's very difficult to know what everyone is up to speed with. Obviously, there's constant developments, constant breakthroughs, and so if you've missed a video, maybe you've even missed a QR code, right? Then obviously people are going to be at different places. So I think it's just a nice way of getting everyone onto the same page, seeing what questions there are, talking about the latest developments, talking about what it is that we're expecting, and getting ready for tomorrow. Now, what I would say is something kind of arose, if you will, a theory, a thought earlier, which has got me kind of chewing over it. And I suppose it's a good place to start. And that was to do with the dollar signs that was in the word massacre. So when the QR code dropped at Clash at the Castle, the word massacre appeared, and the two S's were dollar signs. And that has really got people thinking about Money in the Bank. And if Money in the Bank might be where the group's actually going to start the massacre. The massacre might not start until we get to Money in the Bank. Now, it's just a thought. It's just a theory, right? It's not my thought or theory, but I could see that being the case, right? Because what we could get is we could get the group debuting tomorrow. That means they arrive. And then I think there is a chance that we get the group tomorrow. And then it could be that we do some vignettes where maybe some of these threats, like, you know, run and hide, the massacre is coming. Perhaps they can deliver that in the vignettes a little bit more directly to give the locker room a chance to run and hide and to know the massacre is coming, right? Obviously, the locker room's not going to do that. The locker room's not going to run away from this group. And so maybe then we get to Money in the Bank, and that's where they make their presence felt. That's where things really kick off, right? I don't know how people would feel about that. I think there's a lot of people out there that are hoping that... I mean, I've had people asking me, will Raw start with this group? And I don't think it will. I really don't think it will, because I think you're probably going to want to start with Drew McIntyre, or you're going to want to start with CM Punk. Like, I feel like that's what you start the show with. And I think a lot of people are going to tune into Raw wanting to see this group. And this group, you obviously save it for hour 2, maybe even hour 3, right? I mean, I've said that if I was booking it, it would be the last thing you see. I'd have little teases throughout the show just so that you know that something's going to happen, right? I'd even do a QR code that says something like, see you tonight, right? We're here, or something like that, right? That makes it clear. Ain't got loads of stuff to it. It's just a very simple message. See you later. See you tonight. And then that way, you know they're there. And then I would bring them out very close to the end. When Bray returned, he returned at the end of Extreme Rules. It was right at the very end of the show. We finished the main event, and then the lights went out. Bray Wyatt came out. The place went bananas. The show came to an end. I personally would look to repeat that. I know that people want to get to the massacre, right? We all know what the fun thing is. The fun thing is them going ballistic on people, you know, tearing them apart and like bringing this massacre, beating people up. That's what people are so desperate to get to, right? I think for some of us, we're really excited to see them, see what they look like, see the masks, see the costumes, right? But not everyone feels that way. Some people just want to get to the meat of this thing. They just want to get to the actual, you know, the fun stuff, which is the attacks. I don't know how people would feel if the attacks were a little bit delayed, right? If what we actually got was the group coming out, making their presence felt, they're finally here, and then we do a few weeks of vignettes, get some Money in the Bank, and then that's when they strike. This feels like the right thing to kind of talk about first, because if we're going to talk about what is it that we're expecting, I think the honest answer is we're all expecting slightly different things. As long as I see the group, I don't even need them to be there in person, which might sound crazy, but if the show comes to an end, the lights go out, and then a video plays, and we get to see them, because I want to do a video, and I want to talk to you guys tomorrow night about how this group looks. I want to talk about the costumes. I want to talk about the masks. I want to talk about the moment that we finally saw them, because it ain't going to just be lights go out and boom, there they are, right? If you remember when Bray came back, we had the puppets in the crowds, we had the fun house, it was empty, we had the TV in the fun house come on, that's where we saw Uncle Howdy, who stole the world, all of that stuff, right? And then we went back to the arena, there was a door, the door opened, there was loads of smoke, Bray came walking through, then he took his mat. Like, do you know what I mean? It was this big piece, it was this big performance, it was this big spectacle. And I'm sort of expecting something similar. I mean, they could absolutely be there, right? I think most people would say they're expecting them to be there. But that's why I think this is the right thing to kind of kick this stream off with is, what are we expecting? And would you be okay if it turned out to be a vignette? As long as we saw them. And I've been really chewing that over since the Unseen video earlier, because I hadn't really been considering that. I hadn't really been considering what if they're not actually there, what if it is just on the screen, but what if we see them? And for me, I'm just, talking honestly, for me, I would be fine as long as I get to see the masks, see the costumes, so that I can talk to you guys about, oh my god, how sick does Dexter Lumis look? Oh my god, did you see Nikki Cross? And how amazing that was. I think they've done something different with Howdy. There's people talking about Howdy and how it looks in that image like he's got dreadlocks. Right? It's very hard. I mean, these images are so distorted. It's very hard to be able to make anything out. But you can sort of see that he's wearing hurt and heel gloves. So, there are people going, I think what we've got is a mixture of The Fiend and Howdy as like maybe one character now. And you might remember as well, I don't actually have any of the windows open, but you might remember that in the journal, he said there never was a monster. It was always me. And so actually, the Fiend might have been a lie. Like, the Fiend might have been a lie. The Fiend might have been Uncle Howdy all along. Or Uncle Howdy may have been responsible in some way for the Fiend. Because it just touches back to that journal entry of, there never was a monster. And the monster in my mind was, always going to be the Fiend. It was always me. So I think this is something that you can chew over. I think there's lots of things that are open to interpretation. I think there is a chance that Howdy's look has evolved. And I think there is a chance that Howdy is going to have some reference to Bray. I don't know about the dreads. I feel like there's a chance. I definitely think he's wearing hurt heel gloves. I don't know that that's anything to do with the Fiends. It might just be that Bo wants to wear them because it makes him feel closer to Bray. It might be that he wants that. This whole thing is a tribute to Bray, but I could understand him wanting something on his person that reminds him of his brother. So him having those gloves, I think, would make sense. But even though we've not had the best of look at Uncle Howdy, we've just had little snippets. I think it does feel like the look is going to be a little different. It does feel like the look maybe has evolved. So, yeah, I think there's a few big themes that we need to touch on. What are we expecting? How would we feel if it was a vignette and they weren't actually there tomorrow? If they are going to be there, when are we expecting them to arrive? There's some people that are expecting them to be opening the show and then causing the massacre on the same episode. And they could. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying if I was book it, I wouldn't do that. Just because I think that I would want to really kind of keep building the excitement. Tomorrow's going to be the first time that everybody will have seen this, right? We haven't done any vignettes before. We haven't done anything. I mean, if you've not been scanning the QR codes, you could easily have missed all of this. Easily have missed all of this. If you're someone that just sits down with your snacks and you watch the show and you haven't got your phone at hand and you haven't got a QR scanner, right? And these QR codes have been popping up and you've just been like, you know, I don't know what that is. And you've just been carrying on watching the show, like, this could have passed you by. I would not be shocked to find out that there's many people out there that don't even know about this, right? I think that tomorrow is going to be the first time where you can't avoid it. Tomorrow is going to be the first time where it's not a QR code now. It's either them in person or it's going to be a vignette. And I think that this is very exciting. Very, very exciting. And I think for me, because of that, I feel like we need to show the costumes, show the masks, focus on the group dynamic. There's so much for us to take a look at, so much information for us to digest, that I think that I would much rather bring them in, have a look at them, present them, and do Massacre down the road, right? I would do Massacre next week or the week after or whatever, right? I just want to bring them in and look at them first. Because I feel like we've been teased and teased and teased and teased. We've had to try and decode flipping static, right? We've been shown static, and we've been like trying to like figure out what's that. You know, the pictures have been all glitchy and this, and we've been like, what? Has he got dreads? Is he wearing her heel gloves? Is that, who's the bride? Like, there's been all of these questions that I don't know about you, I'm ready for some answers, man. I'm ready for some answers. Bringing them in and having them do the massacre, I feel like that's the next stage in the story, right? Whoever they're going to go after, that's the next stage. That's like chapter 2. I feel like we need to finish chapter 1 first. And for me, chapter 1 is who's in the group, what do they look like, why have they come together? And I think Nightbird's done a really good job of kind of explaining all of that. But so we've got all of that, but it's not quite finished yet, chapter 1. I feel like chapter 1 comes to an end tomorrow, and then we move on to chapter 2, right? Chapter 1 is called Introduction. Chapter 2 is called Massacre. So I feel like the best way I can word it is that for me personally, I'm ready tomorrow to end chapter 1. Introduction, brackets, Nightbird. And then we start chapter 2, Massacre. So lots for us to talk about. So many thoughts, so many theories. We're going to be around for probably like a good, well, hour and a half to 2 hours. I said we would do 2 hours. We've done 15 minutes. We don't really have to go anywhere. I mean, we can just keep going as the conversation flows. But obviously, I don't want to, you know, just be chatting away and not saying anything of value. I think there is a lot that we can talk about, and it will be interesting to get your thoughts and theories on this. But yeah, that I think was the right way of starting the stream, by just kind of going, what are we expecting? Where are we? What do you want to see? How do we expect them to arrive tomorrow? What's the latest conversation? And, you know, I mean, you saw the thumbnail earlier. I would say that is still the big conversation. Chad Gable being a target. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen his name mentioned as much as I have in the last 24 hours. I mean, it feels like that's a theory that has really resonated with people, because he's bullying. I mean, he is bullying Otis. He's bullying Maxine. He's bullying Akira Tozawa. He's holding them back. He's holding them down, all to elevate himself. And so it makes total sense that he would be on their radar. And then you add in the thing like, you don't say thank you anymore, and you add in the fact we've got the initials CG, and all of a sudden you go, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you should have seen it. I should have seen it. It makes total sense, doesn't it? It does make total sense. The only thing I'll say about it, though, is at the moment he's on his own. Like, I don't know how much Otis is going to stand up to the Wyatts. Otis has been ready on a few occasions to beat up Chad Gable himself, right? He's been ready on a few occasions to, like, you know, turn on. I thought he was going to turn already, but he didn't. but I feel like their loyalty to Chad has got to be wafer thin, right? Wafer thin. So I kind of feel like the Wyatt Six are going to come in. If that's what they'll be called, we don't know. But the Wyatt Six are going to come in. They're going to go after Chad's. Chad is on his own, pretty much. I don't know how much Otis is going to stand up to them. I don't know how much Kira's going to stand up. Don't know how much Maxine's... Well, she's injured anyway, right? So this is where, obviously, we start using the Creeds. But we haven't seen the Creeds as heels. We haven't seen how they work with Chads. We don't know how good or how formidable that group is going to be, because we just haven't seen them as a group. So there would be so many unknowns about this. If that is the first victim, if that is the first person they're going to go after, there's a lot of unknowns there for me. I said, I think in the video earlier, I would much rather they went after Judgment Day, because I know that group and I know what I'm getting, and I know like how that group operates and what kind of a challenge they're going to possess. And you know, I've seen them wrong people. I mean, right now I haven't seen the Creeds wrong anybody. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the Creeds, they're still faces right now. I know that when they join up with Chad, they'll become heels, but we haven't seen them do anything wrong. So it sort of feels like we needed Chad and the Creeds to get together about 2-3 months ago. We needed 2-3 months of them being, like, you know, moody with other people, and then you bring the Wyatt Six in. Doing it this way, where at the moment it's only Chad that's the bad apple, and then we're going to add the Creeds in, and we haven't really seen the Creeds do anything wrong. Like, I don't know. It's a very interesting development. Very interesting. It's not the way I would have gone, but I totally get why Chad would be a target. Totally get why Chad would be a target. I think we're going to have the Creeds do something pretty awful, right, in order to get them heat quickly. Right, they're probably going to have to, you know, beat up Otis, beat up Akira Tozawa, maybe even Ivy Nile beating up an injured Maxine. They're going to have to do that. We're going to have to get heat on them very, very quickly, because right now there ain't none. Like, it's the Creeds. People really like them. Well, I say really like them. We don't even see them that much, to be honest. But yeah, that apparently is the direction that we're going in, so we need to touch on that as well. But I saw that people were throwing in some super chats, and I want to get to these. I want to get to the chat as well. Jumping Jeff Farmer said everyone's in danger. TKG said, do we think we see the therapist tomorrow? I think the therapist is done, to be honest. I think the therapist was just a way of... I think they sat down and they were like, right, what do we want in Nightbirds? And they were like, well, it would be good if we did a therapy session, right? Where, imagine because of Bray passing away, we sit down with Uncle Howdy, Uncle Howdy, and we do a therapy session. And we kind of ask some questions and we get some responses. And I feel like, okay, yeah, that's good. That's a good starting point. And then, you know, we can build up to the therapy session. Maybe we kidnap the therapist so that she can meet the rest of the group. And I feel like, you know, you can sort of see why they wanted to do that and how they built a little, like, campaign around that, if you will. So for me, I think she wasn't or won't be a permanent member of this group. I don't think she's like a new character. I don't think she's going to be part of the group or anything like that. I mean, there was lots of theories out there about how she could be the mouthpiece, she could be the manager and all this kind of stuff. I really think she's an actress that we brought in just to kind of do this first part of the campaign. So I'm not expecting to see her again. I think the great thing, though, is that you can always get her if you do need to do something. Like, if the Wyatt Six suffer a big loss, you know, if they suffer a big loss, let's say one of the members decides to leave, right? Let's say Nikki Cross decides she wants to leave because she wants to start a family. So they write her out of the show. You know, Uncle Howdy, we could kill Nikki Cross off, right, as a character. And then Uncle Howdy could feel the pain of that loss and he could go back to the therapist. So she's someone that we can always bring back in the future if we need to. So she is a character, and she could be a recurring character, but for me, it would only be once in a blue moon. I don't think it's someone that we're going to be seeing like on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or anything like that. It's just going to be as and when we need, really. But that's just my theory, you know? It could be that we see her tomorrow. But I think, you know, like most things that we do, it's about sitting down, looking at where we are, and kind of going with what you think is the most likely. That's kind of how it works, really. Most of the time, you don't have the answers. Like with Drew and Damian, who's going to win that match, right? I said that I'm probably 55, 45, 60, 40 in favor of Damian winning because of Gunther, and you know, I had reasons. And so you just go with, okay, of the things on the table here, what's the more likely option? And you just go with that. And I think with the therapist, I think it's more likely that we only brought her in just for this campaign rather than her being a permanent member of the group or a recurring character. Tommy B, shout out to you, my friends. Julian Higginbotham, shout out to you as well, buds. So Julian, Tommy, thank you joining us as we're getting ready for tomorrow and what promises to be a very busy week, because even when this group arrive, there's every chance that we get something during the week. I mean, I feel like the QR codes are going to be largely done, but equally, I think there's no reason why you can't update the journal, right? I mean, once if you think like that journal is important moments, isn't it? It's a record of important moments. Well, surely their debut is going to be an important moment. So surely it is going to warrant a journal entry. Now, they could do that earlier in the show where we get a QR code and then they do the journal, right? And they update the journal. Or it could be that on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even on SmackDown. Because to be honest, we don't even know what brand they're going to. I presume it's Raw, because they've said the 17th, which is Raw. So I presume they're going to be on Raw, but we still don't know if they're not going to show up in NXT. We still don't know if they're not going to show up on SmackDown. I don't expect them in NXT just because we haven't been getting the QR codes in NXT. Had we have been getting QR codes in NXT on a weekly basis, then I would expect them in NXT. But we've only ever had one QR code, right? Just like we've had one thing on WhatsApp. We've had a couple of things on Twitch. We've had one thing on NXT. So for me, I think there's a chance that actually we're sitting here talking about the 17th, but there's a chance that we get them on SmackDown as well. And there's a chance that we get the journal updated at some point. So it's weird because we're so focused on tomorrow that we're not really looking beyond that, if you will. And if we do look beyond it, there's no reason to think that everything just stops now, you know? It's funny because on my Twitter account, X account, there's people going, it's been brilliant, thanks a lot, guys, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, but there is other stuff coming, you know? There is other stuff on the way. I kind of feel like these vignettes, we're going to want to talk about them. Like, I know that the digging into the cryptic QR code side of it might finish, but we need to talk about the costumes. We need to talk about the masks. We need to talk about who they're going after, who they're targeting, why they're targeting them. We need to talk about the vignettes. Where are these vignettes set? Where are the vignettes set? They film vignettes. Where are they set? Who's involved? The therapist might be involved. We might see the therapist during these vignettes because it might be vignettes that are set from that time period, right? And it might be in the woods, and we might get like all the stuff being added together, like a lot of the clues we had in Nightbirds. These vignettes, they might pull some of that stuff together. So just because like that's it really for Nightbirds, and QR codes dropping on the regular, because I don't think we'll do that going forward. There's vignettes, there's costumes, there's plenty of thoughts and theories that are still going to be needed. So yeah, I kind of feel like we just moved to a different stage now. And it's not the Nightbird stage, of course. It's the Massacre stage, as we said. But it still promises to be a very engrossing stage. Ryan said, Daze, what are we expecting from the debut? Are we expecting an attack or not? And if so, do you think they will attack? So for me personally, I'm not expecting an attack. There could be an attack, right? But I'm not expecting the attack. They have been talking about the Massacre is coming, run, hides, all of that stuff, right? I think part of it is going to depend when they debut. You can't really talk about bringing a Massacre, arrive early in the show, and then not do anything for the rest of the show. So if we're going to see the group early, well, then the chances of an attack greatly increase, don't they? If we see them in hour one, like, I don't know how you do that, but like they come out and they're there in hour one, then they're there. They've said that there's going to be a Massacre, so what do you do in hour 2 or hour 3 with them? You're not just going to have them come out and then not do something, right? Because people will rightfully question, where are they? What are they doing, right? So what I'm expecting is I'm expecting them to arrive late. I'm expecting it to be the last thing you see. That's my honest expectation. Because I think if you bring them out early, you've then got to do something else. You've then got to follow it up with something else. The other thing as well is that if they attack someone mid-match, I kind of feel like you're probably going to miss out on all the bells and the whistles. Because if there's a match going on, chances are you're probably just going to kill the lights. When the lights come back on, they'll just be in the ring. They will have attacked whoever and they'll be standing there, right? But that sort of means like we're missing out on the puppets being in the arena, the vignette playing on the screen, the door prop. You know, think about if Bray had done that at Extreme Rules. Imagine if Bray had just attacked someone at Extreme Rules. You wouldn't have had all of that presentation. You wouldn't have had all of that show because it would have been a bit more rushed. And personally, I'm not really looking to rush this moment. This is a moment that I really want to see breathe. So for me, they could attack someone, but it's not what I would do. I would have them arrive right at the end of the show. I would have the crowd going crazy. I'd have like the holy shiz chants, right, from the fans as this group stand there looking badass. And then the show comes to an end. And then you're like, oh my God, what's happened? Who, like, you know, for those of us that know, that have been following the QR codes, we'll be like, oh my God, did you see it? It was amazing. Did you see what they look like? Loads for us to talk about. For anyone that's not been following it, oh my God, who are these boomers, right? What the hell is this? And it just creates that excitement for next week. It creates that excitement for potentially SmackDown. But if they're not on SmackDown, then next week's Raw, like, need to tune in, man, need to see this new group. That image of them standing there all together, that's going to be very powerful. And I'd much rather drink that moment in than them just rush in and start attacking some people, you know? So for me, I'm not looking for an attack. I can't say I'm expecting an attack. I think I'm using Bray's return at Extreme Rules as the blueprint, really. We've done this once before, and we brought them in. We brought Bray in right at the end of the show, and there was so much praise for that. So much praise. So many people are like, oh, God, it was so good. It was so atmospheric. It was brilliant seeing all the little touches and everything. Like, I really didn't hear many people like complaining about how we brought Bray in. So I sort of feel like if it ain't broke, why are we trying to fix it? Let's and the other thing as well is that if you see them earlier in the show, they're gonna kind of overshadow, I think, a lot of the rest of the show, because I think they're gonna look badass, man. I mean, apparently Fightful are saying that their masks and the costumes have been very labor intensive. So don't think what they're wearing is just going to have been chucked together. Don't think what they're wearing is just going to be a jacket, a t-shirt, messed up hair. Like, apparently what they're going to be wearing is going to be pretty epic. It's going to look amazing because it's took a long time to produce and make these costumes. It could just be that the masks are going to be like super detailed, right? It could be that. It's not that they're going to be wearing big outlandish costumes. It might just be that the masks are super detailed and they took a long time to make. But either way, this ain't going to be chucked together. There's going to be lots of detail, lots of things for us to take a look at. So I think it's a good question. I think it's a fair question about, are we expecting them to attack somebody? They've been talking about a massacre being on the way, so it makes it quite clear what their intentions are. But as I said, for me, I would bring them in. Let's look at the details. Let's take it from there, and we can do the massacre a little bit further down the road. But I am going to keep stressing this, and I am going to sound like a broken record. I can tell you what I would do, and I can tell you why I would do it, but I have no idea what they're going to do, right? And what their intentions are. So it could absolutely be that they open the show. I mean, it could. And then they start attacking people backstage throughout the night. And we find people that have been attacked throughout the night. You know, there's just random attacks happening. And Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce are like running around trying to figure out how do we control this situation. It could be stuff like that. So, but for me, I just love the way they did it with Bray, and I would definitely lean in that direction. Hollywood Eric said, thank you for the updates. Tomorrow is the night, said Hollywood Eric. Yes, my friends, tomorrow is the night. I mean, it's going to be amazing in the sense of we're finally going to see them. I mean, I think if we want to talk about what's disappointing, let's kind of look at it the other way. Let's not talk about what we hope to see. Let's talk about what we don't want to see. And what I don't want to see is I don't want to see shadows, right? I don't want to see... I really don't mind if it's a video. I know that's going to sound crazy, but the one thing I want from tomorrow is I want to see them. I want to see the masks. I want to see the outfits. I want to see them. I'm so done with images that are blurry and static and that have been manipulated, right? I'm so done with trying to go, is that a face? Is that a... I'm really done with that. So I'm at the point now where I want to see them. I don't want any more cryptic stuff in regards to their look. I want to see what they look like. If they're going to present that via a video, I honestly don't mind, right? If they're going to present it actually in the arena, which would be preferable, of course, then brilliant. But either way, that's the big thing that I want from tomorrow. That would have been a very interesting video, actually. What is it that you want from tomorrow? What are you looking for tomorrow? For some of you out there, it will be the massacre. For some of you out there, that is anything short of that will be a disappointment. But maybe some people out there just want, I'll be happy with anything more than a QR code. Perhaps that's what some people are, going to be saying. Maybe some would say, I want it all. I want to see them. I want a massacre. I want all of that stuff. I think we are, in regards to what we're hoping to see, I think we are all at slightly different stages, actually. But for me personally, as I said, I want to see them. I want to see the masks. I want to see the outfits. Anna Carey, oh, I like that name. Anna Carey said, CG and $dollar could be Cameron Grimes, right? It could be Cameron Grimes. I mean, that was a name that was mentioned. There's no word. I mean, obviously Cameron Grimes isn't in WWE. He got very upset when he got released, and I think that touched a lot of people, right? I don't know. There's been no word that he's re-signed. There's been no word that he's in this group. Clearly, he's not going to be a target because he's not in WWE. So it would be very difficult to know how Cameron Grimes would be the person that's being referenced, right? But it is true. I mean, he was someone that won big, like I think, wasn't it stocks and shares? Didn't he have like GameStop stocks was down in NXT and he had like got a windfall as a character. So, and he had the $1 million belt as well. So dollar signs would definitely connect with Cameron Grimes, and obviously the letters CG would connect as well. So yes, you could definitely make connections. I feel like the leading theory is going to be with Chad Gable. We obviously don't know if the dollar signs connect to the CG thing, because people are thinking the dollar signs are connecting to Money in the Bank, and that the massacre could be at Money in the Bank. So we don't know that the dollar signs are a clue or connect to CG, but they could. I would say I would put that like below Chad Gable, the Chad Gable theory, just because I haven't heard nothing. And I certainly have not heard that he's going to be in this group. So then it does beg the question, how does he fit into this? If he's not going to be in the group and he's not going to be a target, how does he fit into this? So, but I like it. I like it. Definitely right to keep asking questions and exploring, not settling on things and exploring other thoughts. Words of Red said, Daze, hello, my friend. I want to give a shout out to NS Mommy. Yeah, NS Mommy was brilliant. Thanks for sending all the Uncle Howdy detective work. I'm exhausted. Well, let's just take an opportunity to say thank you to everybody, actually, because I think that it's been, one of the big things that's come out of this, and I think this is something that most would agree with, is it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll continue to be fun. But I think the way that it has kind of fostered a real sense of working together and a real sense of community. It can sound really cheesy, but we have. I mean, I have spoke to many of you and exchanged tweets where people have sent thoughts, and it's been like, what do we think about this? What do we think about this? And, I've been able to read all of those thoughts and obviously try and present those thoughts in videos and everything. And you go online and you're seeing community members speaking to other community members, and it's just been this big community, really. I mean, it very much is like a community that is working together to try and solve these clues and try and, find things that are hidden and try and find answers and push the narrative forwards. And it would not be possible to sit here and say, thank you to everyone that has contributed, because we must be talking hundreds and hundreds of people. But I would say anyone that's been engaged in this for any amount of time, right? And at whatever level, you're a part of that. You're a part of that. And I think it's been brilliant. The thing about Nightbird and the thing about White Rabbit is it feels like that you can take the elements from it, and it doesn't have to be spooky. It doesn't have to be QR codes. It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be during the shows. It could be that you actually get a little clue that pops. Remember on screen during Nightbird, there was some text in the bottom corner at the very start of it. There was words on screen. I think this was before we even got the QR codes. We had Nightbird playing in the arena, and down in the bottom corner, there was some words on screen. And I don't think we'd quite got to the QR code stage at that point. But the point is that you can communicate these messages in so many different ways that it doesn't have to be spooky, and it doesn't have to be QR codes, and it doesn't have to distract from the shows for those that find that frustrating. I think there are lessons that can be taken from this that can be applied to other characters. There's lessons that can be taken from this that shows that it works. I mean, look at the numbers on their WhatsApp. I didn't even know that you could have companies on WhatsApp. So that taught me something. And their numbers on Twitch. Those streams were some of the highest numbers they've ever achieved on Twitch. So it was a great way of bringing in I don't even think we did use the TikTok. We might have used TikTok once. But it's a great way of using these social media. We used WWE.com. Didn't we, for the article? We went to WhatsApp. I think we had one thing on TikTok. We had things popping up, or we had one QR code on NXT. There was obviously lots of QR codes. There was lots of URLs. There was lots of video clips, sound clips. I mean, have any of you ever took a sound file and run it through a straphogram or whatever it was to see pictures? I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing. Didn't even know you could do that. So, you know, you think about all of that stuff and you think about, like, how you could use that in the future, not just as part of this campaign, but, you know, just in wrestling. And I think they should look at doing stuff like that because it's been so interactive. It's added another level, really, to the show. It's one thing to sit and watch and for us to talk about our views, but it's a whole nother thing to sit and watch and actually work together on solving something, you know? That's like entertainment evolving, right? Kind of sitting down, using social media and working together to kind of work out QR codes that you have to scan with your phone. Like, I feel like we're just scratching the surface on what we can do with that kind of stuff, and it's been so enjoyable. I just hope that, as I said, this is like the start of what we could do with that kind of a thing, and that we then move on to bring those elements in a little bit more. I mean, I don't know if they do it in like superhero TV shows or whatever, you know, but I feel like that would be great for those shows as well. Imagine sitting down watching Arrow or whatever, and you have to kind of solve something on those shows. I mean, that fan base sitting down, scanning, being online, talking about like what they found. Maybe it gives clues as to who's been, you know, mysteriously attacking people. And I feel like there's definitely ways that TV shows can bring this in and integrate it a bit more regularly. As we said, maybe it's just scratching the surface. This is the second time we've done it in WWE. We did White Rabbit. Now we've done Nightbirds. I have no doubt we will see this again. I have no doubt. Because these campaigns are so successful. So, yeah, I just want to say a big well done and a big thank you to everyone that took part, everyone that sent stuff over, everyone that engaged with this. And, you know, keep those detective skills sharpened, because I think we'll definitely get another campaign like this. Might not be for a little while, but we'll definitely get it again. Anna Carey said, what if Howdy steals Money in the Bank? He could do. I mean, I don't know why he would do that. I mean, for me, he's looking to bring this system down. How does stealing Money in the Bank do that? I mean, you could find explanations. You could say, well, the most powerful person is the champ. You know, the most powerful person is Cody. If you're going to bring the system down, then you're going to need the championship because you get all the power. Everything runs, all the arrows. Everyone in the company looks towards the two champs, right? Because that's what everyone's trying to achieve. If you're a woman, you're trying to get the two champs, Liv and Bailey. They're the focuses. And if you're a guy, then obviously Damian and Cody are your focuses. So if you're Howdy, getting one or both or all of those championships, those world championships, that is a very good way of getting more power, and that might contribute towards you being able to bring this system down, right? So you could definitely make reasons for doing that. The only thing I would say is that I feel like the way the story will likely go is that they'll come in, they'll start some feuds, they will try and take some people down. Once they've done a few feuds, that's when I think they might turn their attention to a championship, and that's when they might use the logic that we've just said. But I think they'll do some feuds first. They'll want to kind of get in, get settled, get their feet under the table. And then once they've done some feuds, maybe they beat the Chad group, they beat Judgment Day, they beat Final Testament, maybe they have a little sniff around the bloodline, tease a little something, And then maybe at that point they decide, well, the real way that we can control this is by getting championships, and then they go after that. So I don't know. I don't know about them. I don't know about them coming in and going straight after championships. I don't know about them coming in and turning their attention to trying to win Money in the Bank or whatever it might be, right? There's a lot of people that are concerned with that because that never really felt like it worked for The Fiend, to be honest. The Fiend was probably at his most exciting when he was sneak attacking people and having like meaningful feuds. When you're the champion, you're gonna have to face people like Goldberg, right? And the thing with Goldberg is there wasn't any backstory there. It was just the next challenger, really, and that didn't feel as satisfying for The Fiend. So there's a few people, not everybody, of course, but there's a few people that would say, no, I don't want them anywhere near the championships, because that's not, that shouldn't really be a motivator for them. They're here to cause carnage. They're here to cause a massacre. They're here to free people from the cave, right? And they're here to do all of that. The championships doesn't really help them do that. Although, as we said, you can always dress it up, right? You can always find some logic that will make it work. But I think for me, I would say bring them in, get some feuds under their belt first. But I do like the theory that the dollar signs connect to Money in the Bank, because that is our next pay-per-view or premium live event, and it's not very far away. It's not very far away at all, so it's not much of a jump, is it, to go dollar signs, Money in the Bank? It's not the biggest jump in the world. So I do like it. I do like that Money in the Bank could be the reason for the dollar signs, but I would lean more towards them doing something at that show, like actually attacking someone on that show for the first time, maybe more than stealing the briefcase, or something along those lines. But again, you know what I'm going to say. I'm only sharing my thoughts. I'm only looking at what feels to me to be likely or unlikely. It don't mean that they're not going to, go down a different path to what I'm thinking. So they could do, and they could steal it, and then they could move on to, trying to get that championship themselves, knowing that will give them the power that they seek. So they could go down those roads, but I feel like they'll probably be engaged with feuds for quite a while. But then, you can make the counterpoint, yes, but the Money in the Bank doesn't have to be cashed in for a year. You could make the counterpoint, well, they can still do their feuds. They can still have Money in the Bank, right? They don't have to cash it in. Until after WrestleMania next year, so they could just carry the briefcase for a long time. But I don't know that I want to see this group come in that's all paying tribute to Bray and Funhouse and puppets and them getting their hands on the briefcase so soon, and for that to be like a focus. So it's an interesting one, though. You've got me thinking about it and fluttering around with it, so that's I like it. I like digging into stuff like that. Bubba Joe said, I believe main event segment might just be an entrance, says Bubba Joe. Well, I mean, what I would say is, I think if people, it's going to sound crazy, but if people are going to take a moment to just lower their expectations a little, right? Because I think the one thing none of us want is we don't want anyone to be disappointed. I would hate to sit here tomorrow and have people saying, I'm gutted. That's not what I was looking for. I'm so disappointed. It was flat. It was rubbish. Because we've already got people saying that. And there's already people saying this isn't going to work. And they haven't even debuted, right? So there's already people that are not on board this hype train. So it would be a shame to see some of those that are on the train jumping off, right? Because it's not done what they were looking for. So I would just say, just try and bring your expectations into check. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm very optimistic and very excited for tomorrow. Of course I am. But as I've said, it has made me think today of what's my expectations? What would I be happy with? And honestly, as long as I get to see them, the costumes, the masks, that would be fine for me. So, and if it's right at the end, that's fine. If there's no attacks, it's fine. If they're not there in person, I've thought about it, it's fine. I can cope with all of that. I just want to see the characters. I want to see them. I want to see the costumes. I want to see the masks. So it is worth just thinking about that. I mean, I get the feeling that we will get disappointed people, because we've all got our minds made up, haven't we, on what we want to see. And if it's not going to live up to that expectation, or if it's going to feel like it just falls short of what we wanted, then you might end up with some disappointed people. But I really hope not. It would be such a shame. I really hope not. Andrew, shout out to you, said, where do we think Braun fits in, what with this being on Raw? Well, I'm not sure that he fits in at the very start, to be honest. He's not rumoured to be in the group. I don't think they would necessarily want to go after him, because there's not really a reason to go after him. It's one of those where you could find a reason. You know, you could find a reason, but it's not something that I think we need to do. I'd be more interested in finding a way of bringing him into the group. I think what with Bray passing away, Braun, the black sheep, of the Wyatt family, he's not someone that I would personally be looking for us to go to war with. He's someone that I would be looking for us to bring on board. But he's not rumoured to be part of the group. I do expect him to have some interaction. I do expect it to be a case where he's aware that they've arrived and they're aware that he's around, and there may be a moment where we get like a face-to-face Howdy and Braun staring at each other, right? And who knows, we might even get a bit of a campaign where they try to get Braun to remember who you are, revel in what you are, Braun, like, you know, trying to bring him back, if you will. But I don't think we do that straight out the gate. Just because this group has been rumoured to be the 5 plus Alexa, and I haven't heard anything other than he will interact with them. I have heard that there should be some interactions, but I've not heard anything beyond that, to be honest. I haven't heard anything beyond that. So, in regards to Braun, I think it's an excellent question. I don't have high expectations. I think they're trying to build him up as his own star. I think they're trying to build him up away from the group. But I would expect a confrontation at some point, and I would expect a little further down the road them to maybe try to bring him back into the fold. But I'm not expecting that like this week, next week, 2 weeks time. I'm thinking that's a story that's a little bit further down the road. But I love it though. I love that question. George Mann, shout out to you, my friends. Appreciate the support, buds. George said, I felt so lucky to be able to get my first pay-per-view. I tried to send some videos of SmackDown dart matches this week, but it said on Twitter you was unable to receive DMs. That's interesting. I lost my verified. I changed my profile picture. You know how I've had the therapist? Well, I know that tomorrow is going to be pretty full on, right? I would imagine normally on a Sunday it's relatively quiet, and I would say that today, early hours of today, the superstars were flying back over from the UK, so we know that's going to take a good 9 hours or so, right, to come over from the UK back to America. So, you know, they're not out and about, they're not going to be tweeting or anything like that, so it's been relatively quiet, to be honest, today. But I know that, and it's Father's Day, of course, so a lot of, like, the journalists are out with their families. So there's not loads that's gone down. So I think today has been a day of kind of talking about Clash at the Castle and talking about that finish with CM Punk and getting excited for tomorrow. That's what today has been. But I feel like tomorrow, when the journalists are back and the talent are back in America and we're building towards the show, I feel like tomorrow's going to be pretty full on with news and rumors and theories and thoughts. So in my mind, I was like, well, Nightbird, I think, has now come to an end, pretty much. So I'm going to change my profile picture back. I'll jump off the therapist profile picture, go back to my OG one, right? So I did that. And apparently when you do that, it takes your verified away. Like, it unverifies you for a few days. I don't know why. I did not know this. But it's unverified me now, and now I might not have the ability to receive DMs or anything now. I'm not sure. I have had people going, why are you not verified anymore? And I didn't know why I wasn't verified, but I have been told if you change your profile picture, it affects it, and I have no idea why. So that's what's seemingly happened. It's just, it's the never-ending drama and saga of me and Twitter. And seemingly we're at war, and I didn't even know. But now they've took my verified away for a few days. So that might explain it, George. That might explain it. But I'm really pleased to hear that you went to SmackDown. Pleased that you had a good time. I hope that everyone in our community that went had a great time. Obviously, there was, I think, a good representation of people. I know that Wrestle with Andy was there, of course. I know that Watson was there. There was Woe Movement there. There was quite a few, actually, people from our community that went to the show, which is not surprising. It was in the UK. We've got, obviously, a lot of people in the UK that join us. And so I hope that everyone had a really good time. The crowd came across really well on TV. Really, really well. So I think that Scotland absolutely did themselves proud. I think that the show was a very solid offering. I would say that it was a little bit of a mixed bag, actually. I did the opinions video earlier, and there was some people that were like 5s and 6s, and then there were some people that were like 9s. So I think there's a lot of moments that are open to interpretation. There was a lot of moments on that show where you could go, like the end, right? You could have loved the ending with CM Punk coming down and just not counting it, and it's a 2 and basically screwing Drew, right? You could have loved that and gone, oh, that's going to set up a match between them. That's going to be juicy. Or you could have been livid about it, which lots of people were livid about the fact that Drew had been screwed again in Scotland this time. So it was those kind of moments that really divided opinion. It's a little bit like Isla and Alba. You know, some people think it's not the right time to take it off Bianca and Jade, but some people are like, no, it was right. It was in Scotland. It was good for them. It was definitely the right thing to do. But again, it's one of those that splits opinion. The end of Cody AJ did seem to just go on a little. It probably needed to end just that little earlier. And so that, you know, people really enjoyed the match. I mean, it's a brilliant match, but did it just outstay its welcome a touch? Did we need to shave a few minutes off? I don't know. That seems to have divided a bit of opinion as well. So there's people out there that loved all of that stuff and there was no problems. And so for them, it's like a 9. But then there's people where all of those things I've just mentioned were problems. And so for them, it was more a 6. Or, you know, going down, like, can't believe that Drew was screwed. Don't think we should have changed the belts in the women's tag division. Thought that the Cody match outstayed its welcome. Didn't think there was much from Sammy Chad. Disappointed we didn't get the Otis turn, which I can understand, to be honest. Disappointed we didn't get that. Didn't think Bailey Piper delivered much. I've had those comments, people that have been pretty much down on all of it, and then I've had people loving all of it. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I think I've not heard of anyone that's come away from the show that was really like, other than the Drew thing, of course. I think the Scottish crowd felt like they got their money's worth. I haven't really had people getting in touch going, I went, I wish I hadn't. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of money. I've not had that. I've not had those comments. I scored it like a 7.5775. I thought it was a really good offering personally, and I thought the crowd were great. So, but yeah, probably would have liked the Otis turn, you know, probably would have liked that. And I definitely would have liked to have had Nikki. I think Nikki at the end could have just lifted things a little bit. I was really surprised. As soon as Drew lost, I felt pretty confident we were going to get Nikki. As soon as Drew lost, I was like, right, they won't do what they did last time. They'll pick the crowd up now, and they didn't. They didn't. They just went lol and ended the show. So I was quite surprised by that. So, George, shout out to you, my friend. That's nothing personal to you. I think it's probably to do with my verified drama. Thomas said, if you look at the journal, the symbol next to family used to be a Pluto that transitioned into a Lilith moon. Now it's just a circle. Let's have a little look. WWE.com R5 recovered. I always struggle with... I don't know what it is. I just cannot ever spell archive correctly first time around. I don't know is my honest answer. Right? I don't know. This is not right. These graphics aren't right. Let's get rid of the green. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Lovely. Here is the screen, archive recovered. So you can see it still looks like an eclipse to me. I think that's an eclipse, to be honest. You can see it sort of moving over. Like moving over. Is it, have they changed it? I'm not sure. Did it look different before? Honestly, I couldn't say. But that still looks like an eclipse to me. I mean, they have changed things here. We know they've added loads of, like, you know, if you click on that, you get this. If you click down here on 2024, you get this. So we know that they've added loads of stuff to it. And we know that they keep moving the new down as well, you know. This empathy, by the way, there's empathy. So you can see that here, look, we've got the 4 members, yeah, that are going to be joining this group. Then you've got family, and then you've got empathy. Now, these 4 people that have been recruited, we haven't seen them yet, of course. They haven't debuted. So it's around this time, isn't it? I actually think that these here are all new, aren't they? All of them there are new. I think when we first saw it, I think it ended at Besides. I think that was the most recent one, and all of these have been added. So you can see the point I'm making is that empathy is quite close to the bottom, if you will. All of these have been added just in the past week or so. So if you click on empathy, it says, where is your empathy? All they want is a chance. You reject them without merit. You pray for their demise. What sadness do you mask? What worm consumed your heart? I hope you find solace. I hope you find peace. People are looking at that now going, is that Chad Gable? Is that Chad Gable? Is this talking about how he is holding Otis and Maxine and Akira Tozawa down? And the thank you is interesting because that's the peace symbol, and the last line says, I hope you find peace. There's even a reference to worm, which is that not what Otis does? I can't remember if he called it the worm or the caterpillar, but it's the same move. So people have looked at this and gone, because we've always wondered who this was talking to. And so people are looking at that now, wondering if it is to Chad, if it's aimed to Chad. So, interesting. So, Thomas, shout out to you, buds. Ray Mail 1962 said, don't put a countdown clock and don't use it. You don't put a countdown clock and you don't use it. Yeah, the only thing I would say about that, though, is that they are counting down. We have not seen this group. So if we see them, then that is their arrival, if you will. It might not be them in the building, but if they are like on screen and we see them at home and they're like, we're here, kind of a thing, or the massacre is coming, you know, that's it. I mean, we've clearly took a big step away from just QR codes. Right now, we've just had QR codes. We've had, like, websites and stuff like that. It'd be very different to actually see them on the show in some form. So the countdown clock for me is counting down to the moment that we see them on the show, right? But that to me might not show itself with them being actually in the building. It could, anything that shows them on the show is going to be a big development because we've not had that. We've just been getting QR codes. I've said there are people, I've no doubt, out there that have not scanned QR codes, that don't even know this group are coming. And so the first time they're going to see this group and be aware of this group is tomorrow. So to me, this is what the countdown clock is counting us down to. It's counting us down to the start of the next phase. We're ending the QR code phase. We're ending the cryptic, do you know about this group phase? We're now going to start the massacre phase, which is the fact that you'll now start seeing them on the show. So for me, the countdown clock is counting down towards something. It's counting down to the start of the next chapter. That next chapter, though, can show itself in a lot of different ways. There's not only one correct answer as to what that countdown clock should be counting down to. Like, I think if people are thinking that it's counting down to a massacre and it has to be a massacre, I would say, no, I don't feel that way. Or if people are saying that they have to be in the arena, I could understand that a little more, right? I could understand that more because this next phase should be that we see them, right? So I could understand that more. But I think that I could cope with it being a video. I think for me, I can make the argument that the first phase is cryptic and it's QR codes and you don't see them, right? Even when you scan the QR codes, all you get is like blurry pictures and distorted images. Like we still have not seen them like nice and clear, right? I think the clearest that we've seen was probably Howdy, who was on the other side of a bank and had his back turned to us. And when he turned around, we couldn't even make out the mask that he had on. We couldn't even quite make out the detail. Like, it's always been blurry. It's always been distorted. It's always been altered. It's always been that we've not seen it nice and clear and clean. And so for me, this next phase is the massacre. They're obviously going to be on the show. And it's about, you know, how do we show that? So the countdown is counting down to something. It's counting down to that. But how does that get shown? That's the question. So, I mean, to be crystal, I'm expecting them to be on the show. I'm expecting it to be a case that I'm expecting what we got with Bray at Extreme Rules. That's my expectation. I'm not expecting the massacre tomorrow. I'm just expecting to see them. But having thought about it earlier and thinking about what would you be happy with, I would be fine, as I keep saying, with just getting the video. As long as I get to see them. Because that, for me, would be that big step forwards. Because I'm so done with cryptic pictures. Well, cryptic stuff's fine, but I'm so done with the... Is that them? Is that a mask? What mask is that? Is that a sheep's mask? Is that, like, you know, trying to look... I mean, my eyes have probably deteriorated. I've got the eyes of, like, an 80-year-old now. Because I've been looking at static pictures, squinting, trying to flip and figure stuff out. You know? I'm ready for something nice and simple. I'm a boomer. Can't be doing all this flipping, trying to decode stuff. Fried my brain. So, Ray Mail, you are correct. You are correct. The countdown has to count down to something. That's why we're not expecting it to just be a QR code tomorrow. Aaron, hope you're well, buds. Said Daze, I'm really excited that there will be less supernatural in the group. Malachi Black is my favourite dark character because he's more psychotic, but that's just my taste. It was a great Clash stream. Aaron, I hope you're well, buds. I hope you're well. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not looking to upset people, right? But I've never been the biggest fan of supernatural stuff in professional wrestling because for me, I go back, I look at the history of wrestling. I look at, you know, where we've been. I look at bingo halls. I look at two people battling to try and out-grapple each other. And there is definitely a place for horror in pro wrestling. I think once you start going supernatural, though, you're going to lose people because that is where you are... introducing elements. I feel like wrestling is an extension of our real worlds. I've said you can touch the wrestlers. You know, you can get your picture taken with the wrestlers. I mean, when they make their way down, they'll hold your sign. They'll give you their glasses. Like, they seem to operate within our realms of reality, right? Now, to my knowledge, we don't have anything supernatural in our worlds. Obviously, there's questionable gray areas. Yeah, people feel like they've seen ghosts. Yeah, people think they've seen like UFOs and stuff like that. There's spooky stuff. There's murderers, of course, right? So there's all this kind of gray area as to what we actually get in our world. And I see wrestling as an extension of our worlds. So once you start bringing in superpowers and the ability to do things, I always like to look at it of, well, could it be an illusion? Because we have illusionists that can do amazing things. We have magicians that can do stuff that just blows your mind, right? I can, if you want to operate in a gray area where we just don't quite know, well, how did they do that? Was that an illusion? Like, and all that kind of stuff. That, to me, I love all of that. Sign me up for all of that. Yeah, I'm totally on board with all of that. Once it becomes undeniably superpowers, that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm struggling a little now. Because, you know, if you've got superpowers, if you've got the ability to heal yourself and you can't feel pain, and if you do feel pain, you can just heal yourself and you're back to normal, how will you ever lose a match? How will you ever be vulnerable? And being vulnerable is really important in wrestling, because that digging deep and having the crowd like, come on, you can do it. Your back's against the wall. We've all seen those moments where someone's in a submission hold and they're about to tap and you're like, don't tap, get to the ropes. You know, we all saw Cody having to dig deep to try and finish his story. And I think there's something at like a real deeper level where you can really sympathize with someone that's really going through it, you know? And that's, you know, that's what made Shawn Michaels so good, was the fact he's one of the greatest sellers. And a lot of drama in matches comes from having to dig deep and your back being up against the wall. And I think that's a big thing to take away from the group. It's not so much about giving them superpowers. It's about taking away the selling and taking away the being vulnerable. And that's actually, in my eyes, a real handicap. Giving like them the superpowers, I think you're giving them an easy way out in matches. And I think you're denying them one of the most important aspects of wrestling, which is the digging deep and that kind of deeper connection with the audience. So for me, I'm a big fan of, like, I want them to operate in the gray area, because there's people that love the superpowers and there's people that love that side, the supernatural, right? But the great thing about, say, The Undertaker was, for me, a lot of what he was doing was in that gray area. Like, if you want to believe that the urn had magical powers, you can believe that, right? If you want to believe that, you can believe that. If you want to think that the urn was just, like, symbolic, and it was just a case that the urn had a lot of sentimental importance, and just its mere presence was enough for The Undertaker to dig deep, right? You can believe that as well. I've always seen the urn, for example, as like if your dad has passed away and you've got your dad's watch, that is, if you're down, right? If you're in a fight, whatever, and your back's against the wall, you might be wearing your dad's watch and you might look at it and it might just make you dig that little deeper. It just might make you think, no, not today. You ain't gonna get the better of me today. It has that kind of sentimental importance and significance that allows you to go to a place you didn't know you could go to. It allows you to dig deeper, right? And I've always thought and enjoyed the thought that the urn had that kind of significance to the Undertaker. So if he's down, he knows the urn's there, right? He can hear Paul Bearer, like, and the power of the urn, that was the power of the urn. The power of the urn was that it always managed to get Undertaker to dig deeper, to go to that deeper place. So, but for some people, it was just straight up supernatural. They didn't think of it on that scale. They didn't think of it that way. They just thought of it as it had powers, and that was it, right? But this is what I'm saying. For me, there was enough grey area there where if that's what you want to go with, you can go with that. And if you want to go the other way, you can go with that. It's a lovely grey area where everyone's happy, right? No one loses, but everyone wins. And I love it when people operate in that grey area, because, and I think it's the sweet spot. I really do. I think it's the sweet spot. I think you can operate there, and if you want it to be supernatural, it can be, and if you want it to not be supernatural, it can be, and that is where this group should operate. They should operate in that area. It should be that people are adamant that there are supernatural elements to the group, and then there's people that can sit down and explain that to them there isn't, and the reasons why. And I think that grey area is where I would put them. I would put them there so that everyone wins. If you want supernatural, you get it. And if you don't want it to be supernatural, you get it. And so I would look to keep them there. But it is true that there was a report earlier from Fightful that they're not going to go down that supernatural road because they want it to fit into the modern wrestling world. They want it to fit into the modern wrestling environment. And they feel that if they go down that supernatural road, it might just alienate a few people. A few people may struggle to kind of go with it. So yeah, it's a big talking point, that actually. Big talking point, because do you know, I haven't even read it. I haven't even read exactly what Fightful. Should we have a look at it now quickly? I haven't read what they wrote. I saw like people talking about it and paraphrasing, but I have not. I've got Fightful Select, so it's nothing for me to just have a quick glance. Details on the Hardys. Killer Kelly talks about leaving WWE. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this was yesterday that this dropped, so I don't think it's bad for me to read it now, okay? Plus, I've seen everyone talk about it anyway. So it says the new Wyatt family base stable is coming soon, and it has been hinted at. Bo Dallas, Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, and Erick Rowan are all expected to be part of the group, with addition pieces that we can't quite confirm. So we're thinking that's Alexa, and I do think that Braun is going to have interaction, right? I think that's coming. Rowan was re-signed recently and was at the Performance Center preparing for the return. Bo Dallas has remained under contract since 2022 when they brought in the Uncle Howdy persona. Dexter Lumis has been off TV for a year, and we were told he wasn't injured whenever we asked about it. We've asked about the upcoming stable and how it'll play out. We're told it's obviously been in the works for quite some time, and WWE thinks there's a real chance that this will work with modern wrestling. There were hints in the Bray's documentary that they needed to do something that would make Bray proud. In addition, a heavy talking point was that it was often difficult to make Fiend and Wyatt programs work in the ring. Sources in WWE we spoke to said that wouldn't be an issue, as there doesn't appear to be supernatural elements currently planned for the presentation. The last time we asked, Uncle Howdy was slated to be a part of the group. Of course. There was also Mercy, Huskus, White Rabbit discussed, though a lot of visuals surrounding the group have been kept close to the vest. Is that a saying? Close to the vest? I thought it was close to the chest. The stable has been teased since the beginning of April, when Sean Ross Sapp confirmed at the end of Bray Wyatt's documentary that the teases were referencing Bo Dallas's return. The stable was planned months prior, and a lot of work has gone into the costumes that have been created. For people talking about who is and isn't in the group, An omission from the article doesn't mean they won't be involved. Yeah, there was a lot of talk like, oh my God, they didn't mention Alexa. But they did say that there's a few elements that have not been confirmed yet, which to them, basically, they've asked and they haven't got confirmation from who they asked. We do expect Alexa to be a part of this. It's just she's going to come further down the road. That was reported by Tom Colohue like ages ago. We spoke about that ages ago. So yeah, Alexa is expected to be a part of this, right? So that was what was written. That was it. I'd literally read it all there for from Fightful Select. So yeah, Aaron, shout out to you. Sean says, I feel like I might need to pick up the pace here. Sean says, does the countdown point to a certain time, or is it just 8 when Raw starts? I believe it's just 8 when Raw starts. I don't believe the countdown clock is pointing to the exact moment we see them. I think it's pointing to the show that they're going to make their presence felt on, right? So I believe that it's just pointing to the start of the show. So, yeah, that is an interesting one. Again, people might be thinking that when it hits 0, we'll see them on screen. I'm under the impression it hits 0 and Raw begins. And then on Raw, we don't just get a QR code, right? We get something more. So that's my expectation. Slamex, shout out to you, my friend. Slamex said it's been an amazing couple of months. Big thanks to everyone. Well, Slamex, you've been amazing as well. You know, there's been so many people, and one of the best things that I've read over the past few days is when people have said thank you and everything, is just hearing about how people have had their social media accounts grow as a result. I know that earlier it was mentioned that people were having accounts now in the hundreds of followers, where a few weeks back it was like 30 followers, and that's brilliant. That is brilliant. That's what it's about. You know, I am open to trying to find ways that we can get everyone in the community to grow their following. I mean, we did it the other week, didn't we? And I got in trouble. But we did it the other week where we did a whole, listen, go down, follow everyone on this list. We did that. And I think that was a real benefit to people. I mean, I got so many people saying that they got like a real boost from that, which, you know, that's why it didn't bother me that I got a slap on the wrist last weekend, because for me it was job done. We did something, it worked, and people in the community benefited. But I am open to seeing like how can we continue to do that. I think that's something that, putting myself like in the community's mindset, if you will, I feel like that's something that would be very appreciated, because everyone wants more followers, don't they? And not just, you know, not just followers that are just random people, but people that are into the same things that you're into. Followers that are interested in the things you're interested in. Wrestling, Bray, Nightbirds, so on, so on, so on. So as a community, as a collective, we should be trying to follow each other, because everyone's followers will be boosted, and they're good followers, they're good people, they're people that like the same things that you like. So when you talk about it, there's a good chance your posts will get more likes and more engagement, because if you talk about wrestling, these are wrestling fans. If you talk about Bray, these are Bray fans. And this community is a big community. We're talking thousands of people, right? We're talking thousands of people. So collectively, if we could find a way of like continuing to support each other and boost each other's numbers and leave likes on each other's posts and all that stuff, I'm open. I'm open to like, how do we do that? I don't quite have the answer. We tried that follow train thing, which I think definitely helped, and it had a much bigger response than I was expecting. But I got to be honest, I'm not eager to get slapped on the wrist and get limited Twitter functionality again. I mean, I'll help you, but I would rather not lose my Twitter account for a few days again, if I can avoid it. So, but yeah, I've definitely got that in my mind as we move forward. How do we, as a community, come together and support each other, and what does that look like? And I think there's something there. I really, really think there's something there. It's one thing to sit here and just chat, But it would be it's a completely another different thing if you go to your Twitter account and all of a sudden you've gained extra 50 odd followers. You know, you're actually seeing something tangible then, aren't you? How we put that into practice, I'm not quite sure, but I'm open to suggestions. So there we go. Slam X, shout out to you. Tea Time, really appreciate it. Tea Time sending in a very, very generous donation, as have many people during this stream. I mean, honestly, considering we were just going to be kicking around a few thoughts for a few hours, I didn't expect so many people to be joining us, and I certainly didn't expect the generosity that people have shown. So it's really, really appreciated. All of that, as we said, is just going to go back towards paying for what I ended up having to buy. I want to make sure that when I'm watching the show, I can see those details. So I've gone and got like a little cheap PC just for streaming. Not like streaming that we do here, but streaming the shows in. Because the quality of what I was watching was rubbish. I feel like my laptop is, its best years are behind it. Much like myself, really. I feel like my laptops are a reflection of me. The best years are in the past. But, so yeah, I went out and got this, and honestly, it's been a game changer, man. I so enjoyed watching Clash at the Castle. Do you know, not that long ago, before I bought this, I was having to refresh my WWE network because it would keep freezing. So something would happen, and then I'd have to, like, refresh it and refresh the page and go back into it. And it was a real bite to... I didn't realize actually how much it was affecting me. Like, but now I can just hit play and it never crashes. It never goes to 240p, right? It's like 1080p or whatever. I mean, it does what I need it to do. And it's been a game changer, man. It's been so good this past week since I got it. So yeah, it will go towards that. So really appreciate the support, the generosity, and in some way or another, it goes back into the channel. So Tea Time, you're amazing, and it's really appreciated. FBE 0203 said, did you hear the report from Fightful? I did. That the group of Uncle Howdy would be more realistic than supernatural, just like the Wyatt family were in 2013. I mean, I loved the Wyatt family. And I loved the Firefly Funhouse when it first started. I loved The Fiend. But there were times where it strayed a bit away from what I was looking for, right? There was times where The Fiend would do stuff like, I think there was once where it changed its clothes in the ring, or, you know, it got burnt alive and then walked down a corridor and magically just got restored. You know, those are bits where you kind of have to take the rough with the smooth, really. And I've said it was very interesting to watch that documentary and see that there were things that were being presented that even Bray was not happy with. There was things that we were getting and stories that we were getting that I don't think came from him. I think that there are elements of the story that he was having to present that I don't think he wanted to present, or I don't think he felt comfortable presenting, or I don't think it had quite come from his mind. You know, this is the problem where you've got Vince around, who's always going to have that final say. It might be your idea, but you're never going to have total control over it. And certainly not when Vince was in charge. So I think, you know, when White Rabbit started, I was really excited because I loved White Rabbit, and I was right there with the story. And the story didn't make loads of sense. I think there was a lot we never got to with White Rabbit, or when Bray came back, you know. We only got one match, didn't we? We only got the Pitch Black match. So, and we never really got to understand the relationship between Howdy and Bray. Like, I think this NIghtbird campaign has actually given us more answers than we got from Bray's last run. Like, we never quite knew Uncle Howdy's relationship with Bray, but I feel like, you know, now they've made it very clear that it's Bo. They've made it very clear that they were brothers. They've presented it that way. Bo was never presented as being the person behind Uncle Howdy last time. So it's actually a very interesting development that, and it's something I think we've took for granted, that actually they've been presenting Howdy as Bo, and that we know the identity and we know the relationship, basically. We didn't get that. I can't stress that enough. We did not get that, right? We did not know. I mean, for a long time, until Uncle Howdy actually walked out into the arena, there was a theory that Uncle Howdy was Bray, and that Bray was talking in the ring about how, you know, he's just himself. He loves coming out and just being himself. Now he doesn't wear a mask. And then he'd be interrupted by someone that sounded like him going, "You're a liar," right? And so there was a big theory that that was Bray. So when Uncle Howdy came walking out in the arena, that's when people were like, whoa, it is a different person. So it's funny when you look back on that run and you see like how much we didn't know compared to how much we found out this time around, and like where we are now. We've been getting so many more answers, and we've been getting so much more context. And this is why Nightbird for me has been a big success. A big success. Because what I was looking for is what we've had. I'm looking for context. I'm looking for character development. I want to know what their motivation is. Well, we know that. I want to know what they're coming in to do. We know that. I want to know why they got together. We know that. I want to know Howdy's relationship with Bray. We know that, right? They've done an excellent job of getting all of these messages across over these past few months. And I think that means that when we actually get going, we're not going to have to wait too long. That's probably why a lot of people are expecting them to come in and just hit the ground running and start massacring. Let's start massacring, because we don't need to wait around. We've had quite a lot of the answers that we wanted. So, yeah, Wyatt family, anything that's going to be similar to Wyatt family is going to get a massive flipping tick in my book. I loved that group. They weren't perfect. You know, definitely some of the creative and some of the booking could have been different. I don't like seeing Rowan jobbing out to The Rock at like WrestleMania 32. That has never sat well with me. But so some of the creative was not always right, but I'm excited. I was excited anyway, but I'm even more excited now. FBE0203 said, I've sent you how I think the group will debut on X. X, go on, give it to you. Go on, give it to you. I might struggle to get to it just because we have quite a few things coming in. I'll have to have a look at it afterwards. I'm just having a quick scroll down now, and like all the time we've been live, we've been getting a lot of people sending stuff in. So I will go through. I mean, I want to do an unseen anyway. So after this, so I will go through my Twitter account and I'll gather everything together. London Askew, Bray Wyatt fan, said, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's had a good day. Oh, look at London Askew coming in, being all lovely. I hope you're well, buds. Delwyn, shout out to you, my friends. Really appreciate the support. Delwyn said, what would you change? Small things in Uncle Howdy. Do you think Uncle Howdy has more value in his character? Yes. If he does not, and make him scarier and make him more threatening, should Bo move to create his own darker character? So what would I change about Howdy? I would change his Titantron. I think I would change his mannerisms. I think him coming out and like twirling the hand, I don't quite get. I sort of feel like if you want an intimidating, threatening character, would you not be in the shadows, just sort of like standing there, like, you know, just like tilt of the heads and then just start like walking forward? This kind of twirl in the hand. It's a very weird character, isn't it? It's a very strange character. It's a character that I don't feel like quite reached its final form. I feel like we needed to play around with the character a little bit. I feel like the character might have benefited from being in NXT for a little bit, where we could like evolve it, and anything that just didn't work or sit quite right, we could tweak and change. We sort of had to hit the ground running. We had to get it right first time. And I don't think we did, because we changed the masks as well. I mean, if you remember the vignette, he had that kind of full face mask. And then when we started seeing him in the ring, he wasn't wearing that. He was wearing a different mask that had the mouth kind of cut away from it. Like they cut this bit out. But the one that you would see whenever he was like, "You're a liar," he didn't wear that mask when he was doing those vignettes. And what that says to me is that they had the mask made and then realized it muffled his speech, right? Or he struggled to breathe, or they knew that he wouldn't be able to wrestle whilst wearing that. And so they altered it. But so that was a little tweak that I think we saw, right? But I feel there's other things that needed tweaking, like the Titantron for him. I remember him having like a sort of smile like this. He kind of was like, "Here I am." And I remember looking at that going, that doesn't feel scary. That, like, the music's quite good. Da-na-na. Like, the music was all right. You could probably get it better, but God, I would not trust Def Rebel to get it better. I think we all know if Def Rebel touched that, it's only going one way and it's not up, right? So I think the music was okay. I wouldn't necessarily look to change that. I think the imagery on the Titantron I would definitely change. I think the costume could evolve a little bit. I think it's just a weird character. He's not like a big scary guy, right? He doesn't have that kind of, when you see him, you don't go, "Oh my God." You don't get that. So I feel like we've got to turn up how vicious he is. We've got to make him more threatening with his presentation, because he doesn't have the OMG factor. You don't see him and doesn't come out like Brock, just like, "Oh my God, everyone's going to get ruined right now." He doesn't have that. So you've got to find a way of manufacturing that. And I don't think that was shown in his Titantron. And I don't think it was shown in his mannerisms as he's doing. I mean, I don't know what this is. It's like he's making his way. It's like he's a dandy. He's kind of coming down like the Scarlet Pimpernel. Do you know what I mean? I expect him to have like a little shooter. Try and hold up a stagecoach or something. I don't know. I expect him definitely to have a pocket watch. Uncle Howdy definitely owns a pocket watch, right? That's the kind of person I expect him to be. But I don't know that that's intimidating. I don't know that that's scary. And I feel like we didn't really put him in any situations where he came across as, I mean, he was confrontational, but we never saw what he could do. And, with NIghtbird, seeing him like turning his head around and some dude going, "Oh my God," like some dude being scared. And then him breaking into someone's house and then kidnapping a therapist. Like, NIghtbird has actually shown the darker side of Howdy. I mean, like, honestly, what we saw from Howdy before was not that great. I mean, Howdy tried to sneak attack Bobby Lashley and it fell flat. Howdy tried to drop an elbow at the Royal Rumble and it looked awful, right? There was stuff about Howdy that just didn't look very good. Like, I didn't think the Titantron looked good. I didn't think the mannerisms looked good. I didn't think the elbow at Rumble looked good. I didn't think the sneak attack on Bobby looked good. I actually think there's quite a bit that needed to evolve. And I think there's quite a bit where the presentation needed to change and be more impactful, right? He needed to be more threatening. He needed to be more intimidating. He needed to be darker, right? We needed to go darker rather than him being whatever he was, right? So I think there was quite a bit that needed to change, and I will be looking to see if they've done that. I mean, I think the presentation has evolved. I think this character is still going to wear the hat, still going to wear the long jacket, but he may be wearing the hurt heel gloves now. He may have dreads now, which is kind of a surprise. I wonder if I can find that picture. There's a picture of him here. So people are looking at this, wondering if, like, I would point, but my hand goes behind, which is a shame. I wonder if I could go. If I go down here, this is better for me. This works better for me. Go into this one. I want to go there. See, here, like, you know, there's seemingly like that looks like a dread, and then that looks like it might be a dread, and then that looks like it might be a dread, and then down here as well. Look at these. This doesn't. I agree. It doesn't look like normal. Look at that. It doesn't look like just normal hair, does it? There does appear to be what looks to be dreadlocks here, which is a very interesting development because you never had them before, right? You never had dreadlocks before, if that's what this is. It's very hard because obviously there's so much distortion that's going on here. It's very hard, but you can definitely see why people are looking at this going, are those dreadlocks? And obviously that looks like a hurt or a heel glove. Of course it does, right? So if he's got the Fiend's gloves, and if he's gone and got some dreadlocks, I would say we have seen some development here. I mean, all of a sudden, this doesn't feel like the Scarlet Pimpernel, the dandy that's making his way down to the ring, right? Plus, we've started to see him, as we said, doing some scary stuff, breaking into people's homes, kidnapping therapists, and we need to see more of that. We need to see more of that. We can't be having stuff like where he tries to sneak attack Bobby, fails, and then scurries away, right? That is not it for me. So there's quite a bit. I don't think he needs a new character. I feel like there's something here. They've given him a good backstory. I think the fact that we saw him with Bray as well. I mean, there's an emotional connection there now because Bray's gone. And this guy is all we have now. But he stood side by side with Bray. And I think to just abandon this character means you're abandoning all of that value. There's value in that. And I would definitely stick with this. But as we said, I would evolve it as well. I would definitely evolve it. Making him scarier, I agree. Making him more threatening, I agree. Should Bo move on to create his own character? He could add to this. I mean, I don't know if Uncle Howdy has got a darkness. That could be very interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people would like Uncle Howdy to be Bo's darkness. But could you go an extra level? Could Uncle Howdy have a darkness? What if you can go one more level, right? Which would just be unfiltered, pure evil. I mean, I don't even know what that would be called. I don't know what that would look like. But what if Bo wrestles on Raw and SmackDown, Uncle Howdy wrestles at premium live events, and then once or twice in his career, however long that career might be, we need a darker character. How about when we go up against Randy Orton? And Bo ain't going to be enough. And maybe Howdy tries and Howdy ain't enough. What if we introduce a new character that's Uncle Howdy's darkness? Don't know what it'd be called. Pluto? Don't know. Don't know what it would look like. Don't know if it's a good idea. But that would be something I would chew over. I would chew over that. But I would only do it once or twice. And I'm thinking a feud with Randy would make a lot of sense. And maybe Howdy just doesn't quite have enough, and so we have to... So you could introduce a new character, but still keep it within the same lore, if you will. So, yeah, Delwyn, I really like that. I think there's a few interesting thoughts there, buds. Tea Time, shout out to you. Appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. Tea Time again! My God! Dudes. I mean, like, so appreciated. It's like... mind-blowing appreciation, honestly. It's I don't even have words, to be honest. It's so appreciated. That's all I can say. It just goes back into the channel and it pays for this flipping thing that I bought. I'll show it you, actually, because people might think I'm lying. People might think I'm a liar. I bought this. It's not bad as well, you know. Look at that. That is a PC. Isn't that amazing? Still got its thing on, but that is what I use to stream now. I bought another screen that just sits here, And rather than trying to watch the shows on my laptop, which I can do at like 240p, it's not a bad laptop, but for some reason, it ain't having it. I went and got this. It's a mini PC, right? It's a mini PC, and it's good. It's good. It does what I need it to do. You're probably not going to do like super, 4K video editing on it. But if you just need to do a bit of web browsing, watch, what do I need to watch? I need to watch the WWE Network. Like, I ain't asking it to do anything crazy. But it's good. It was 500, right? 500, which is quite a lot, but I didn't want to cheap out, I didn't want to get it and then realize, it's no better than my laptop. So I thought, if you're going to go for it, go for it. So I did, and it's been a real breath of fresh air, let me tell you. So I bought that, and I bought a new screen as well. So, my bank account is currently in floods of flipping tears. My bank account's on its knees. So, it just all goes back to that, but it's so appreciated. Tea Time said, Wyatt 6 versus Judgment Day. Let's make it happen. Well, I can't, but I'm with you, but I would totally be down for that as well. I'd be totally down for that feud. That would actually be the first feud that I would do. I would do that feud because I think they're established. I think they are heels. I think they have caused problems, and I think you can bring them in and it makes sense. The concern I've got with going after Chad Gable is that makes sense, but he's on his own. You can't go after Otis because the reason you're going after Chad is because he's disrespected Otis and disrespected Akira Tozawa, so you can't attack them. Right? So at the moment, Chad's on his own. Yes, we know the Creeds are going to join him, but right now, the Creeds are faces. All we've seen is them having some conversations with Chad backstage. That is it. So at the moment, they're faces. So not only are you having to try and establish this new group, you're also going to have to establish the Creeds as faces. And as we said earlier, that means that you're going to have to do some heel stuff quite quickly. You're going to have to make them heels quite quickly. It's possible. It's not impossible, but it's just not the ideal way of doing it for me. So I'm not down on it. It's not like a big problem. I'm just saying it would have been better had the Creeds have been heels already for like 2-3 months, and they'd caused problems, and they were bullying Otis and Tozawa, and they were at their wits' end. Then you bring in the Wyatt 6. That would have been preferable. But, listen, you've got to just go with the hand that you dealt, don't you, sometimes? So it's fine. I think Chad's a good opponent. Chad is a good person for them to go after. It makes sense. It just means that we're going to have to, try and fast forward the heel turn with the Creeds and whatnot. So also, it's worth saying, we don't know that they're going to go after Chad first. We don't even know they're going after Chad, but I do like the theory, and I do think it fits. And I'm definitely on board with it. So until I see something better, then, that's where my head's at. So, but yeah, Judgment Day would make a lot of sense to me, but I'd be totally down with it being Judgment Day being like who they go after. King Chris said, hard to think we won't see touches of Supernatural. We may get them eventually. I think it's one of those where I think WWE have always been quite careful with it, or at least I believe they have. Undeniable, we've had supernatural stuff in wrestling, right? Undeniable. But I think that they haven't actually gone to those lengths as often as maybe some people think they have. They've always been quite cautious with it. They've always kind of, for me, operated very well in a grey area for a lot of the time. It's one of those, isn't it? I suppose it's sort of open to interpretation. To some people, there's loads of supernatural stuff, but then to others, you can sort of explain things, in a logical way, whereby it doesn't have to be supernatural. So I would agree with all the themes that we've been discussing, with all the stuff that's been in Nightbirds. It's probably hard to imagine that we won't get something supernatural at some point. But I think this is for me personally, I think this is the right decision. this is something I would have advocated as well, because I think that no one really misses out this way. And certainly if you can keep the group in the grey area where some stuff can happen and it's like, is that supernatural? Is that not supernatural? Was that just an illusion? Was it just a trick? You know? I kind of, I feel like I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by this news. And we'll just take it a step at a time. Right, Thomas said, I was thinking of other wrestler rebrands, and I thought of Undertaker to Badass, and had a laugh. What if we just hit Vince with a motorcycle? I mean, American Badass was, you know, it wasn't a disaster, or like people loved it, but I'm a big Undertaker fan. So for me, like OG Undertaker is, you can't beat that. The grey gloves, you can't beat that. Even when he went to the purple gloves, when he came back in 94, you know, really cool. I was not a fan of Ministry, to be honest, and I was not a big fan of American Badass. But I do agree with Undertaker that it was very hard / close to impossible to be the dead man during the Attitude Era. That era, it didn't lend itself. You know, you got Stone Cold coming down being like, you know, that era was about telling it like it is. That era was about taking no nonsense. That is not an era for dead man Undertakers, right? So I do agree with it, but not my favorite era. I was really pleased when he went back to dead man. Once we were past Attitude Era and we, you know, he comes back, is it 04? WrestleMania 20 as dead man. So, you know, once we'd got past that kind of Attitude Era and we were, you know, in a different place, then, you know, he went back to being like dead man. But even when he went back to dead man, he knew that he wanted to still have elements of like him being a real person. It was never the same. Yeah. I kind of felt like the Undertaker we got post WrestleMania 20 was not the same as the dead man we had in the early mid-90s. You know, early mid-90s was like slow walking, in a trance, would snap his head if something caught his attention. You know, he'd snap his head and then he'd turn his body and he'd then go walking in that direction. And it was quite zombie-like in a way. The Undertaker that we got in post WrestleMania 20 was not that, was it? What we got was we got Dead Man. We got him going back to that attire, but it wasn't that zombie-like presentation. You know, he could cut promos. You could tell that he was different, and that the American Badass had certainly shaped what Dead Man became, you know? So it's just the evolution of the character, isn't it? I think it's good to see a character evolve. I don't know that if we'd just stuck with Dead Man from the early 90s all the way through, that it would have worked as well. I think it's right that we see the character evolving and going through different stages. And, you know, maybe that's something that we need to think about with Uncle Howdy, big picture-wise. Perhaps the Uncle Howdy that we're getting here is not the Uncle Howdy we see in 5 years' time, if he's still around in 5 years' time, doing this character. You know, maybe there's going to be a lot of evolution within the group and within Uncle Howdy as well. So it is quite interesting to go back, talk about Undertaker and compare to his journey. William Smithson, shout out to you, my friends. Wayne Garland said, do we think Raw kicks off with Drew? I think so. That to me makes the most sense. He's going to be absolutely livid. People are livid about how he got screwed. I think building him and CM Punk and the title picture, and I mean, it could kick off with Triple H, who tells us that Damian has got to forfeit the title, right? Because we don't know what situation Damian's in, because Damian very easily could have done some serious damage when he got caught in the ropes. So I would say, for me, the most pressing concern is the whole World Heavyweight Championship thing. So Punk and Damian and Drew. I don't know that Punk's on Raw. He announced he's going to be on SmackDown, and he's going to reveal if he is now medically cleared, which I expect him to announce he is. But yeah, I think we definitely start with Drew, Damian, all of that stuff. Yeah. Doug said, I believe we'll get their debut during a Money in the Bank qualifier. They're going to destroy everyone in the ring at that time, says Doug. Doug, shout out to you. And Skyzo Beats, shout out to you as well, my friends. So a massive thank you to everyone that threw in super chats. Now I can get back into the normal chat and see what people are saying. We're going to blast down, right? I think what we might do is I'm going to aim for... I mean, I have really not spoke to you guys much, so I'm going to try and aim for about half an hour. I'm going to aim for like half an hour of just blasting down the chat. Let's go. James said, this is why the New Day are shiz now. They've not evolved and they're just stale. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, we said that about this community. Like, if we're standing still, we're not like welcoming new people, you're pretty much going backwards in this world. And that's true of a lot of things. I mean, the New Day didn't evolve. The other problem I'd say with the New Day is that they had bootios and they had their pancakes and all that kind of stuff, and all of it went away. I mean, as soon as Big E left, there was just no creativity. They didn't seem to try anything. I don't remember anything they've done, right? Other than just be a team, I don't remember anything that they've done since Big E went. I can remember matches. I remember, like, Xavier winning King of the Ring, right? But as a team, I don't remember pancakes or bootios, or I don't remember anything that they've got behind. But even if they had, I agree with James, it would have seemed stale. Like, it would have felt like, been there, done that. What have you got for me now, you know? We just haven't done anything, have we? It has been very... flat from the New Day for quite a while. Quite encouraged though with what Carrion's saying. I don't know quite what Carrion's going to do, but he seems to be suggesting that he's trying to get dissension, isn't he, between Xavier and Kofi. I don't know if that'll work, but he's trying to plant a few seeds there. There might be something interesting happening with them finally. Right, 2004 to 2015, Undertaker is the best, said Trent. He decided to finally kick it up several gears in the ring. Kaysen Adams said, I feel like the Wyatt 6 will have the loudest pop of the year. Doug said, the Glasgow Drew job. Tito said, I've got no idea what's in the pictures. I've used filters. Con FUC said Drew is going to make a real mess on Raw. It's going to kick off, man. It is going to kick off. Horatio said, I've seen a post that says that Damian left with no injury. Oh, I've not seen that. That's interesting. I've honestly not seen that. So if anyone has seen any news on Damian, ping it over, because I have been waiting for an update on that. Is there actually, with that being said then, is there anything on the wrestling sites? If we go to Observer, daily updates. Just did our weekend show. Regarding Damian Priest, we don't know for sure until he gets his knee checked out. The feeling last night after the show was that he had dodged a bullet and it wasn't as bad as appeared. He went to the press conference before getting it looked at and he said it felt like his knee was trashed. But later in the night, we're told things were looking a bit more hopeful. That's interesting. So that's on the Wrestling Observer website. So maybe he has dodged a bullet. Wrestle with Andy, shout out to you. What's next for Cody? Maybe Solo at Money in the Bank. Well, I would hope so, to be honest, because I really don't want Cody Solo at SummerSlam. I think that Solo is someone that the majority of people see as the guy that lost 40 odd matches in a row, the guy that has had a bit of a flat year this year, the guy that they're trying to build up and they're trying to get behind, but it's a bit, you know, it's a bit late in the day, to be honest. Like, you should have kept him strong throughout 2024 so that when Roman went, he could seamlessly take over. Instead, he feels like someone that's beatable. He doesn't feel like someone that deserves a world title opportunity, like, what's he done to earn that? And, you know, listen, you could go, well, what did Logan do to earn it? And that would be a very fair comment, right? Very fair. But, yeah, with Solo, I don't think anyone would expect Solo to beat Cody and win that championship. But it's a story that makes sense. You know, if you was the bootleg bloodline, as Kevin Owens calls them, you know, Cody is someone that you would have on your radar. You know, Cody is someone that you would be going after at some point. So if they're going to make their move now, fine. But I don't know. It's not the feud that I would be looking for SummerSlam. I would want something bigger. You know, maybe we use this feud to set up Randy versus Cody at SummerSlam. Because I'll take Randy versus Cody. I'll take that match. Give me that match over Solo Cody at SummerSlam. I mean, if we're really going to, you know, if we don't have The Rock and we don't have Roman, I think we've got to look at what big names we've got. And Randy would be front and center. So Randy having a little look at the belts. Hopefully that's a seed being planted. And hopefully this tree can blossom quite quickly, and we could maybe do Randy turning on Cody out of nowhere, RKO out of nowhere, turning on Cody, setting up a match for SummerSlam. With all their history, that would be sick. Do Solo first, then do Randy turn, then do Randy versus Cody at SummerSlam. If we don't have Roman and we don't have The Rock around, you know, where is his next big challenger going to come from? Who is it going to be? I mean, if it's going to be Solo, I think that's underwhelming, personally. I feel like Cody should be tangling with the Romans and the Rocks of the world, not really the Solo Sikoas of the world. But, you know, I have to see how it plays out. But that's what I would look to do. I hope you had a good time wrestle with Andy. I hope you enjoyed yourself, buds. Donald said, do you think that Howdy's finish will be the Sister Abigail when Alexa joins? It might be weird. She was not established supernatural, and that not what they're doing. I get it was during COVID, but we'll wait and see. Well, I think that's the right way of looking at it. Let's wait and see. I mean, there was definitely things that Alexa was doing that was supernatural. Because, as you said, it was during COVID. We didn't have the same restrictions we do now. I mean, they could do video editing and stuff like that, you know, which allowed them a whole new scope of stuff that you just can't do in front of a live audience. So, I don't know. I kind of think let's take it a step at a time. Let's bring the group in. Let's see. There's so much that can go wrong, and there's so much that needs to be looked at, that I think we just take it a step at a time. Let's bring them in. Let's get them looking good. Let's get the presentation good. Let's establish the feuds and take it from there. In regards to Sister Abigail, I do think Abigail should be the last move. Yeah, the finishing move. I think people would really love it to be little references to Bray just sprinkled in, you know? I mean, I think if Uncle Howdy's going to wear the hurt heel gloves, that's lovely. That's a lovely, you know, you're not going to be able to look at them and not think Bray. And if he hits Sister Abigail, you're not going to be able to look at him hitting that and not think Bray. And I already know whatever flipping happens, the Fireflies are coming out. And you're not going to see them without thinking Bray. I've got no doubt that when Howdy comes out, it'll be dark and, you know, the Fireflies will come out for him. So I think there's going to be a few little bits. I mean, the whole thing I keep saying is a tribute to Bray, but I think there will be a few little bits that will just be there to kind of just, you know, keep Bray's presence around. And Sister Abigail will be a great one, you know, great way of doing that. So I would personally keep that as a finisher. I think it's a good finisher. I think it does what it needs to do. And I think it calls back to Bray as well. So I wouldn't be eager to change it just for the sake of changing it. But I don't know what signature moves Uncle Howdy could have, because he could have some other moves. Doesn't have to just be the Sister Abigail finisher. I mean, like, You know, there's other moves that you can put like into your arsenal. Like with Undertaker, he had the tombstone, but he also had the last ride. He also had the choke slam. He also had old school. So with Howdy, Sister Abigail can be the finisher, but what are the other signature moves? So if you really want to see Howdy introducing something new and doing something new, I would say let's look at the signature moves, because we can definitely explore that. But I think putting him away with Sister Abigail, it's got such a lovely callback to Bray. I don't think I'd go with something different. Wolfrian said Obafemi is going to be a monster on the main roster. He's only wrestled a few matches and he's looking incredible. Trent said, I think they'll do a 6-man tag at Money in the Bank. Orton turns on Cody, and then we do Orton Cody. Okay, I could go with that. I think we get Cody Randy at SummerSlam, then Rock Cody at Mania. They are making that faction too strong. It's ridiculous, says Alberts. Which faction, Buds? The Bloodline one. Jody said, where's Omos? Omos... The problem with Omos is that he's big, he's lumbering. I just don't know that he's going to get it. They've tried, and, you know, I just don't know that we're going to be getting, like, great matches out of Omos. So, Omos, I think they've kind of conceded that he's someone that you bring in as a special challenger. You know, he's someone that you bring in as an Andre the Giant Battle Royal participant. He's someone you bring in for Royal Rumble. You know, he's that kind of attraction that you bring in once in a while. I don't know that he's going to have the kind of career where you see him week in, week out. We've tried so much with him, and it's hard, and it's just not for everyone. And the bigger guys really struggle. If you look at Great Khali, you know, if you talk about some of the worst wrestlers in WWE and wrestling history, a lot of the time, it's the really tall guys. It's Giant Gonzalez. You know, Undertaker jokes about how awful it was wrestling Giant Gonzalez. It's Great Khali. And I think Omos is kind of in that group, is in that bracket. I don't know if it's to do with their size, that the movement's a bit more labored. The movement, you know, it's not explosive. It's not fast. You know, it probably is just harder to get around, and so doesn't tend to lend itself to making great wrestling matches. So I think they've probably looked at it and just gone, let's get out of him what we can get out of him, and let's use him sparingly. So I haven't really heard that there's an injury problem or anything like that. I just think they're keeping him an attraction. Sean said, Logan is slightly different. He brought his followers, not trying to gain more, says Sean. Erin said, I'm so excited for tomorrow. I think it could be an all-time Raw. Oh, God, yeah, there's so much stuff, isn't there? So much stuff that's going to be happening. The fallout of Clash is going to be amazing. What's your thoughts on Marufuji versus AJ Styles? Well, I think it's good to work with Noah, but I don't think it's really anything that's going to interest like much of us over here in the West, you know? I kind of feel like Noah doesn't really have much star power, to my knowledge. I think you've really got to know your Japanese wrestling to be excited by what they have on their roster. I mean, you could do a piece where you like educate, but I don't think really, I mean, I don't even think the match is going to be shown. I don't think WWE are carrying it, for example. So I think it's just something more for Noah and for their fans. What we get in return, I think, is interesting, because I suppose what you get is you get a presence in Japan. So you're sending AJ Styles over. There's going to be a lot of talk of WWE, a lot of footage shown to the Noah crowd. So you're sort of getting promotion that way. I don't know that they send someone over to the main roster. If Noah sends someone over, they're going to go to the NXT level. So you could do that, but I don't know. I don't think that's the name of the game, to be honest. I think really it's about establishing a foothold in Japan. And I could see it being the case that, you know, if WWE start NXT Japan, then we've got something interesting, because you know that NXT Japan, if we do finally get that off the ground, you know that that's going to need wrestlers, right? And I think that Noah could really come in then. Then all of a sudden, we could talent share. They could be a feeder promotion. We could do shows of NXT Japan against Noah. So it's hard to know what the big picture is, because I don't think we're seeing all of the pieces at this point. But I think WWE are getting a foothold in Japan. They're getting some press, promotion over there. It's good for the Noah fans. Obviously, AJ Styles going over, so that's awesome. But I wouldn't expect it to be a case that Noah stars are going to come over. I mean, I just... Forbidden Door has been fairly successful, but I don't think its success has been as great as some thought it would be. I think that it's been fairly successful, but that's not the blueprint I think WWE are really looking for. WWE are all about star power. I feel like AEW care a bit more about great matches than WWE do. WWE want great matches, but that's not the priority. The priority is stars, right? People tune in to WWE and they buy tickets to WWE and they go to the shows because they want to see certain stars. Building stars is the name of the game, because everything else falls into place. If, as we just said, you know, Randy Orton, right? He has got big star power. Cody Rhodes has got big, so you smash them together at SummerSlam, right? It's not the best match. You could come up with two wrestlers that will give you a better match. Ilya versus Gunther will be a better match, right? But that ain't going to main event SummerSlam. We're looking for star power. And the problem you've got with the Noah roster is they ain't got them, right? Certainly not to the people over in the West, right? As I said, you've really got to know your Japanese wrestling to know the people on that roster. So unless you're going to do a piece where you're really trying to build someone up and really educate the audience as to who these people are, I can't see any talent coming over and going to the main roster. You might have someone pop into a Rumble. You could do that, you know? You might have someone pop into a Battle Royal. But I think if we was to bring anyone over, it would be at the NXT level. So I've got a few thoughts about it. I'm excited by it. I think it's good to be reaching out and working with different promotions. It's a bit of a challenge for WWE because they are far and away the market leaders when it comes to popularity. The closest promotion to them is AEW, and they obviously don't want to work with them because they don't want to, put over their closest rival. So it means working with much smaller promotions. And so obviously that presents a few challenges as a result. But I'm very excited to see them working with other promotions. There was a thing earlier that we looked at in Unseen. This year, they will have worked with TNA, Noah, All Japan Wrestling, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and there was another one as well. They've really got out there, and it's good to see. I'm excited to see kind of what their bigger picture looks like. How do these pieces all fit together? I mean, one of the things that you could have done is that you could have put all of these promotions onto the WWE network when we had that. You know, this could have been a way that we could have got some deals signed, and the WWE network could have been the exclusive home for some of these promotions, and that could have been quite an interesting development, but I think we're past that now. That's something that I think may have been of interest back when the network first launched, but I don't think that's, now it lives on Peacock, doesn't it? Now we just get paid like $1 billion for the content that we've already got. So I don't think we need to look at bringing in other promotions, but this is what I'm saying. I wonder what the bigger picture is actually going to be. Ilya Gunther will main event one night of WrestleMania. I'm going to die on that hill. Once the Bloodline stuff is done, there will be opportunities for something like that to happen, said Wolfrian Grits. Coaster said Jey Uso is going to win Money in the Bank. K-pop lover said red or green grapes. Green. I don't think it makes a difference, does it? I don't know that I know like white and red wine can taste a bit different, but I don't know if grapes taste different, actually. I've had like mixed before, and I don't think I've ever tasted any difference. But you've got me thinking now. I don't have grapes that often. I might get some. I'm thinking green, but I don't know why. Daze, here's a good question. Cody's champ. Do we know if he'll beat Roman's record for 1,316 days as champ? Do you think Cody will beat it? No. I think what Roman did was very, very special. And I think that Roman and the bloodline was so unique. It's not often that you get someone as champion that's got that kind of support network behind him. It wasn't just about Roman. It was about the Usos. It was a lot about the Usos, and it was, bringing in people like Sammy as well. There was, and Paul Heyman, I mean, think of the part Paul Heyman played, right? So the bloodline really helped Roman's longevity, because Roman could be away and they could talk about him and they could keep him on the agenda. So they could talk about, like, when Roman gets back, he's not going to be happy and all this kind of stuff. So even though Roman's not there, he's still being spoken about. And we can still see how the bloodline members feel about him and are concerned about, oh my God, we can't let Roman down, right? And then, of course, you've got little stories like Sammy and Jay and how they don't like each other, and is Roman going to accept Sammy? And then when Roman comes back, we get the honorary use moment, Well, the bloodline are setting up a lot of this stuff whilst Roman's not around. And then when Roman comes back, he can be there for the payoff. And so even though he's not, like, defending the belt, whatever, like, and he's not on the show week in, week out, the pace of the story is quite slow. It's always progressing. Roman can be around for the key parts. And so it was set up perfectly for longevity. It was set up perfectly where he could just come in, steal the spotlight, go away, be spoken about, come back, steal the spotlight, go and have a match. Normally it was a banger, go away again. And it was set up for him to be champion for a long time. And it worked. It worked. There was people that was obviously critical of it, saying that I wish he was around more and all of that, and totally understand. I wasn't so worried about him being around more. For me, I did want him to defend the belt a little more. I do think every 30 days is a rule which, it's not set in stone, but it's what I use as the barometer. If you're champion, you should defend every 30 days, right? If you defend and it's been 40 days, 45 days, no problem, right? But once we start getting 50 days, 60 days, like, we've got a problem now, right? The gap's too big. It should be around that kind of 30-day range. But as I said, I can accept 40. I can accept 45, right? For me, there's times where he doesn't defend the belt within that kind of 30-day range. And so I would have liked a few more title defenses. Outside of that, though, I'm fine with not seeing him every week, because you can't tell me that when we found out that Roman was going to be on SmackDown that week, that it wasn't extra exciting. It definitely was. It definitely was extra. Like, oh my God, it's Roman this week. Oh man, I would not want to be Jey Uso. Roman's back on Friday. And that level of excitement of, oh my God, can't miss SmackDown, Roman's back. You only get that if Roman is not around all the time. And this is part of the problem that Cody's got. He's around all the time. He's around all the time. He doesn't have that support network. He doesn't have people talking about him when he's not around. He doesn't have people worrying about him and, like, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? So for me, I don't look at Cody's title reign as being set up to last a record-breaking amount of time. I think that it can be a healthy title reign. I think we're definitely going to get through to WrestleMania. So I think it'll be a healthy title reign. But I think what Roman's just done is special. I think it needed the right ingredients, and he had those ingredients. But I don't think you should really measure how successful a title reign was by how long someone had it, I think that it's a measurement of success, but you can't say that Cody's title reign is going to be a disappointment if he loses it before beating like Roman's records, you know. I think the better way of judging a title reign is, are the matches good? And honestly, he's had 2 great matches with AJ Styles. The match with Logan was fine. I think the stories have been disappointing, but what we just got with AJ was better. And hopefully we're now approaching something really special at SummerSlam, which I hope is going to be Randy. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But I hope we get something really special at SummerSlam. He needs that. There are people saying that he's struggling, but I don't think he's struggling. I just think he's not had very good creative. So, yeah, hopefully he gets it for SummerSlam. But naughty Scottish schoolgirl Chelsea Green. I've not quite recovered, to be honest, K-pop lover. What would be on the roster for WWE Mortal Kombat video game, said Not JPEG. Oh man, that would be sick, wouldn't it? WWE versus Mortal Kombat. That would be sick. I feel like you would just go with those characters that are larger than life. So, I mean, you probably couldn't put Brock on there, but you would want Brock on there. Roman as the tribal chief, you could have a lot of fun with that, of course. Seth Rollins, you'd have a lot of fun with that. I feel Becky Lynch with her like ginger hair, like, you know, you want things that, you want the people that like really stand out, that would kind of work in that kind of world. So, you know, I don't know that you'd be going for Chad Gable, for example. I don't know that you'd be going for Sami Zayn, but you're Randy, Cody you could do, because I'm sure you'd just turn up the whole American thing, right? Cody you could do, the American Nightmare, and Brock you could do, and maybe Omos as well, actually, because of his size, because of how tall he is. So, yeah, you'd want those kinds of people. James said, Camille had a better reign than Roman. She actually showed up to work. She defended the title nearly every week, says James. Cody Randy feels bigger than SummerSlam to me, said Dick. That would be an amazing... I hope that is what we get. An amazing feuds. Metal Mama said that would be awesome. Joey said, I miss Scottish Chelsea. We all do, Joey. We all do. No Name said, I miss SmackDown from late 2022. Right after Bray returned. Bloodline, Imperium, Bray, Rise of LA Knight. It was such a good vibe. Cody should drop it to Dustin, said K-pop lover. I would love to see Dustin come back for that final run. I would love that. The Massacre is coming Monday. What else do you want, said New Tomorrow. Well, I'm keeping my expectations in check, to be honest, buds. As I've said, for me, I'm going to go in with the hope of I just see them. And as long as I get that, I will be satisfied. As long as I just get to see them and I get to see the masks, I get to see the costumes, that's all I'm looking for. If I get more than that, brilliant. If I get any less than that, that's when I think I'll be willing to say, yeah, I was a bit disappointed. I don't want to be disappointed, you know? That's why I'm keeping my expectations in check. Maybe Howdy will say follow the buzzards, says Coaster Guy. Right, we're at 54 minutes past midnight. I did not expect us to go this long. I thought we would do 2 hours, and I was a bit, not worried. I mean, one thing I know I can do is talk. But, yeah, I was a bit like, 2 hours on Nightbird, that should be okay. But, well, we'll have to see how it goes. Well, here we are, 2 hours 20, and I've only really just started chatting with you guys. But I do need to run away and do an unseen. So we'll do 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. I'll try and blast through as many comments as possible. And then I will bid you adieu as we all get an early night ready for whatever tomorrow brings. I mean, I say early night. I'm going to go off and try and do an unseen. I'll have a look, see what's out there. We did do an unseen not that long ago, though, so my folders are all empty again. So I'll see what's been sent through. It might be like a little short one tonight, to be honest, but that's fine. It's not really about that. It's obviously about whatever goes down tomorrow, isn't it? Wilfredo said, what was your reaction to Liv and Dom? I was shocked. But it's a great story, and I'm looking forward to seeing that tomorrow. Chris said, did you see your head in the crowd? I did, and a massive thank you to my evil twin, Wrestle with Andy. I got asked on Twitter. They were like, have you got an evil twin in Scotland? I was like, yeah, he's called Wrestle with Andy. So Wrestle with Andy, for some reason, just has lots of my head, big signs of my head, which more than one, because he took 2 to WrestleMania, and now he's got another one made, which he took to Clash at the Castle. So very much appreciated, and I know that there was loads of people that got in touch that seem to enjoy it. So yeah, and you know, hopefully he's still got it and it's not been lost in Glasgow. I don't want it flipping popping up at the next Willy Wonka exhibition, I can tell you that. Tharuka said, I'm really excited tonight. Clash at the Castle and all the Wyatt 6 stuff. The Train of Fam said, are we interested in Baron Corbin getting used well? Yeah, definitely. I thought he was good down in NXT. Shame, because he just found his feet with Bron Breakker in the Wolf Dogs, was it? And now obviously Bron's gone off to do his own thing, and now it means Baron Corbin's faffing around with Legado del Fantasma. So yeah, I would like to see him get used well. Hopefully in a good storyline. They're starting something with him as a face, and I really want him to do well, said the Traino Fam. Yeah, I agree. I want him to do well. Legado feel cold to me, and Apollo, I mean, we just never see him. So him being in that story, I'm a bit like, could be okay, but it's not what I would use him for. But yeah, there's a talent there, isn't there? We just never seem to be able to realize it. Christopher said, will they debut in Firefly Funhouse outfits? I don't think so. Firefly Funhouse outfits to me would be like quite TV presenter, children's TV kind of outfits. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting it to be dark. I'm expecting it to be masks and dark and menacing, and so I'm not expecting anything Firefly Funhouse, other than I think what you might see is the costumes having some inspiration from the puppets. That has been reported. Will they? Oh, we read that one. Then they're going to hold the belt up after attacking Solo and Cody, said Shots. Not JPEG said, what pro wrestler would you compare to the Power Rangers? Zaya Lee comes to mind. I'm thinking anyone that's got Carmen Petrovich, anyone that's got that kind of mixed martial arts base, but certainly more karate. I mean, it's no good having jiu-jitsu, but anyone that had like karate, mixed martial arts. So Carmen Petrovich down in NXT comes to mind. Zaya Lee comes to mind. I'm trying. Is there any guys though that have that? I don't think there is. Is the Boa? Boa kind of has that kind of karate to him. I mean, I can't really think of anyone on the main roster though. Can't really think of any guys that have martial arts on the main roster. Not really. I mean, if you go back through history, you can find people. But I would be looking at anyone that's got that kind of karate background if you was trying to put together a WWE Power Ranger group. Metal Mama said, do we think we get a ride along or swerve back when we go to Netflix? Don't think so. I don't think so. Just because I think there's probably enough content there. If you're going to give Netflix all the old pay-per-views, all the old shows, all the old documentaries, they may turn around and say, have you got any extra like new content, right? Have you got any like new stuff that you can provide? I mean, I'd imagine WWE would be like, well, we do this week. We do that once a week. We've got all the episodes of SmackDown and NXT. They go up like, you know, X amount of weeks after they've aired. So we put those up. We always do like collections as well of matches. I think they'd fob them off with that, to be honest, mate. But making new content costs money. Spending money hits the bottom line. So you could understand them being a bit reluctant to go down those roads. You could understand them being like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Here's like more content than you could ever watch in a lifetime. That'll do you. So, and as I said, they do a lot of playlists, don't they? And bits like that. So I think they'd just fob them off with that, to be honest. I mean, I would like some original content back, but a lot of it sucked, to be honest. A lot of it wasn't very good. I like Swerved. I never got into Camp WWE, the cartoon. Never got into that. Legends House was amazing. Love that. Love that. But yeah, there was some of it that was just a bit like... Not sure about this. Edge and Christian's show was brilliant. That might be the highlight, you know. Edge and Christian's show totally reeks of awesomeness. That was a lot of fun. But I'd imagine it was quite a lot of work as well. Trying to get, like, guests, wrestlers to come on and trying to, like, write the scripts and figure out, like... There was not another show really like it. So I'd love to see them bring something like that back, but I really, really wouldn't hold your breath. I think they're trying to find a way now of getting the most money for the least amount of new content. That's kind of how it works. What are the thoughts on the QR code theory where Howdy attacks people backstage as the QR code flashes? Are they targets? What's the opinion? Well, I haven't really heard any theories about the QR code hitting at certain points. I mean, what I would say is I think they've been just dropping them at times where they feel it's going to not be as distracting. I mean, you would never want to put it in the main event because then you've got people going off investigating it and not watching the main event. I don't think you'd ever want to do it right as people are making their way down to the ring. So you've got those kind of restrictions where the QR code's going to be dropping in the middle of the show and not during the open and not during the end, and maybe not even during the start of the first hour, right? Because again, that's a key moment. So I don't think the placement of the QR codes means a great deal. It'd be brilliant if it turned out it did. I think that they just drop it at the point in the show that they think is going to cause the least amount of disruption. So I'm not aware of anyone that's kind of gone back and looked at when the QR codes have dropped and have looked to see if there's a pattern. And as I said, it would be amazing if it turned out there was. But if someone's going to ask me, what do we think about that? Like, when they've been dropping the QR codes, my answer would be, I think they've just been dropping them at times that has not caused disruption to the stories, if you will. You know, you just drop it during a tag match, women's tag match, something like that. And then people can investigate it, and hopefully they'll have it figured out by the time we get to the next hour, or, you know, whenever we're going to get to the next big important thing, you know. Justin said, very end of the show, the lights go out, Funhouse Bray laughs, bam, lights on, members in the ring with gear, spotlight, Bray laugh, end show. I'd take that. My only expectation for tomorrow is that we see the costumes. That is it. As long as I get to see the costumes and I can see the masks, I will be a happy boy. So if we get that, I would fully expect people to go, I was expecting more. I was expecting a massacre. I thought it was mid. I'd expect people to say that. But I know where I'm sitting right now. As long as I get to see the costumes, I get to see the masks, and I don't have to deal with distorted pictures anymore, I'll be a happy boy. That'll do me. Here's a good question. Do you think Hideo Itami, Berto, and Angel would make a good trio? They're not three that I would put together, but I can't see why they wouldn't be able to work together. But you could put them together. But I feel like Berto and Angel are like Latin American, and Hideo Itami's from Japan. So they're from different worlds, different cultures. There has always been a bit of a reluctance to kind of mix those different cultures together. I think the main reason for that is because theming, to be honest. If you've got a group and they're all from the same background, you can be quite strong with your theming. If you mix cultures up and you mix people from different backgrounds, what theme do you go with then? I mean, you could go with a theme of, you know, something different, like earth, wind, fire, water, you know, and each one represents a different element, and they come from different worlds, different backgrounds, different cultures. Like, you could do something like that, but I think you have to kind of think about what you're presenting and why you're presenting it. So I would say, look, they're 3 wrestlers. They're 3 talented wrestlers. You could put them together. It would be fine. But why are you doing it? What would be the theming? What would be the purpose of it? So if it was in a creative meeting, that would kind of be the conversation we'd be exploring. I am villain said, is it possible we get a dark funhouse? Yeah, I wouldn't expect it early doors, to be honest. I wouldn't expect it to be a case that we get that straight away. I think we'll probably build towards a funhouse. I mean, I think there's a chance we do get a funhouse at some point. I feel like people would probably want to see it, would want to revisit it, would want to see the puppets. I think it worked as well. It's different. There's nothing else like it. I think it would be a shame to not do it just because Bray's not around. I kind of feel like if I was Bray, I would want it to live on. I wouldn't want it to die like when I've passed away. So it's funny because some people see some of this as disrespectful. They're like, no, that was Bray's and you can't touch it. But I'm like, oh, I look at it different. I'm like, if it was me, I would want it to live on. You know, I wouldn't want my work to die when I've passed away. So, and for my brother to want to do it, no problem, of course. If my brother wanted to do it and carry it on and, you know, allow it to live on, then yeah, amazing, brilliant. So I don't see it as a disrespect thing. I see it as just, does it fit the current storyline thing? That's kind of how I see it. No one's going to watch Raw. Everyone's going to be watching for the group. Yeah. Todd Gordon is looking more and more like Paul Heyman, says Oration Minds. Well, I think we've strayed away now from our original purpose, and I've also stuck around 7 minutes past what I was intending to stick around for. This was a stream to dig into what we're going to get tomorrow, Nightbirds, to dig into Uncle Howdy, what we're going to get, what the expectation is. I think we definitely ticked that box. So with that being said, I'm going to run away, grab some food, and move my attention onto whatever it is we're going to get tomorrow. So thanks a lot for joining us. Appreciate the support. Have a great evening. Get a good night's sleep. And I will see you tomorrow a little bit earlier than usual. We're going to start 3 hours before Raw, right? So we're going to start that a little bit earlier tomorrow. But yeah, get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow is going to be monumental.